Se me ha acabado el presupuesto para dubstep y partículas. Así que aquí la tenéis, la intro de Necro for Fun.
El puto amo.
A la teoría y eso.
Including a band of vampire hunters, one with a particularly shadowy past.
Seek out Zir's army. Kill as many as you can.
Eris is a professional vampire hunter. She's crossed and recrossed the wilds of Sanctuary, putting an end to the undead since long before the events of Diablo 4.
I need to go after the magistrate, and you're gonna have to come along.
Eris is played by actor Gemma Chan. It's exciting to see more film and television actors lending their talents to the video game world. Gemma brings a wealth of experience to the table from a wide variety of roles. She was a great choice to breathe life into this character of a world-weary but determined vampire hunter with a lot of emotional complexity.
That's a bite mark. You're changing, aren't you? No, from the depth of that wound, you should have already. She is strong. She's compassionate towards others, but she's also witnessed a lot of horror in her life, so she's pretty emotionally guarded and stubborn and fixed in her worldview. Oh, you're going to change. I'm sorry, but whatever's preventing your cravings won't last forever. It never does.
She realizes that the player character has these vampire traits, which makes him a useful tool, but potentially disposable one.
This is madness. Perhaps that's what it takes.
One of the core seasonal mechanics for this season are vampiric powers. Vampiric powers can be acquired by defeating Bloodseekers and minions of Lord Zir in order to acquire potent blood, which allows you to unlock or upgrade vampiric powers.
When you collect all of these various powers, they have costs, which are going to be detailed as part of the pack system. So armor pieces that you collect during the course of the season are going to have these packs associated with them.
There are 3 types of packs, and you can use the boons they provide in order to fuel the blood seals for various vampiric powers. You can combine the power of different blood seals in the Sanguine Circle, so long as you have the appropriate combination of packs in order to power them.
One thing we've really tried hard to do is to provide powers that enhance every build so that there's no one right way to play when pursuing that vampire.
Vamos, que no haya un barbero por encima de todo lo demás.
I like where as the player dashes, they turn to a cloud of bats, and they'll curse creatures they pass through along the way. As you kill those creatures, you're going to actually steal their souls. When you use certain abilities on your character, all of those souls are unleashed, dealing devastating damage to nearby creatures.
Hostia, pero son gemas Baal. Dice que matas a bichos para robarle el alma y usarla contra ellos. Son gemas Baal.
There's even a vampire power that allows you to summon a bat companion. They'll take a bite out of your enemies and have a chance to stun them.
Lord Zir's army is pushing across Sanctuary in an event called the Blood Harvest, which will always be active somewhere on the map, but will change locations in a cyclical way.
Blood harvests are large-scale open-world events where vampires have overwhelmed an area in the hopes of enslaving the populace, harvesting their blood, and siring more vampires.
Players will venture into these areas to rescue prisoners, stop sinister rituals, and hunt for high-value enemies. Of course, they'll be rewarded for their efforts with a variety of new items, as well as the potent blood that fuels their vampiric powers.
Nuevos bosses. Recordad que vamos a pasar a tener 5 bosses de endgame.
5 new returning endgame bosses for players to engage with once they get into World Tiers 3 and 4. Players will be able to earn the materials to summon these bosses by completing Whispers and by completing Helltide events.
We have some new enemies with powerful elemental attacks, giving players more reason to seek out and equip gear that enhances their resistances.
What sets these new in-game bosses apart is that they offer a new way to farm uniques. So if there's a build-defining unique you're after, you'll be able to target farm specific bosses.
Hostia, van a hacer farmeo dirigido para que cada boss suelte una serie de legendarios. Incluidos los Uber únicos.
We're also going to be adding some quality of life updates in Season 2. The first of which is we're going to be taking our gem system and making it so when gems drop for the player, you're actually collecting materials. They're going to be stored differently. They're not going to go into your inventory the same way, to help alleviate some of the concerns about inventory space that players have talked about before.
As long as you finish the prologue, you can now choose to skip the rest of the campaign and dive straight into creating a seasonal character. If you previously unlocked a mount in Diablo 4, it will be immediately available to use when you begin your journey through the Season of Blood. And we've made it so that renown rewards persist through seasons, so that the reward is now account bound.
As we do with every new season, we'll be adding a new season journey and a new battle pass filled with new, vampiric-themed cosmetics for them to collect, and we'll also be adding some new town cosmetics, both in the free and paid versions of our battle pass in Season 2. We'll also be making a number of other changes to the game, updating unique powers and items, reviewing legendary aspects for different classes, We're going to be updating stats like our resistance values across the game, and a number of other balance tweaks.
Reworkeo de las resistencias, haciendo que haya enemigos que ataquen con elementos para que sea más importante resistir.
Is that Sanctuary is a big place and there's a lot going on. The primevals and the angelic forces are still very much in play, but I think players are going to enjoy seeing some more human-scale dramas play out.
Diablo 4's second season will be our largest content update yet, but we're only getting started. Along with providing new quest lines, powers, and events each season, we'll continue to improve upon established systems by listening.
Es verdad que van a meter poderes, eventos, ítems, questlines, meter un huevo de cosas.
So come join us in the hunt.
Que empiece la caza.
Hey guys, how's it going? Long time no see. Welcome to another developer update live stream for Diablo 4. My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community director here for Diablo. I'm joined by our wonderful panel here. Some familiar faces, one new face. Feel free to introduce yourselves, you guys.
Thanks. I'm Joe Shelley, game director for Diablo 4.
I'm Antonio Watson, associate dungeon designer for Diablo 4.
And I'm Joe Pipora. I'm the associate game director for Diablo 4's live service.
Season sale el 17 de octubre.
And I know you guys actually just saw an early look at season 2, Season of Blood, with that video before the actual live stream kicked off. I do want to start off before we kick off into this conversation.
Yeah.
There is going to be an emergency alert if you live in the US at 11:20 on every single mobile device. So you may actually see us look at our phones or our watches, or you might hear it at home if you live in the US. So if you do hear a weird noise or something, we've tried throwing everyone's phones out the room, but it still might happen. So it's a good time check though, which it lets me know that it's 11:20, which is really funny. But we do have a lot to...
11:20 Pacific time.
Yes, Pacific time, 11:20 Pacific. Sorry, we live in California, and so that is the time that we kind of base it. So based off your time zone, that is in 17 minutes, everyone. But I did want to give that heads up to everyone that if you hear a weird noise, or if you hear a weird noise at home, that's what it is. It's a
Parece que se equivocaron en la noticia, ¿no?
If you live in the US. If you live in the US, that is. But we do have a lot to talk about here. We do want to talk about Season 2.
Vaya tela.
Of course, with Season of Blood. And go through all the gameplay mechanics, a little bit about the
Vamos
story.
A ver qué nos cuentan.
Some of the
Vámonos de la season, de los cambios de Quality of Life, de noticias y anuncios, y por último, preguntas y respuestas.
October 17th. And of course, Season of the Malignant will also be ending on October 17th, so it will be a season transition for players between both seasons. And then we have a bunch of gameplay updates and quality of life updates to actually go through a ton. Like this, we expect this.
A ver en qué consiste lo de las tres influencias del equipo. A ver cómo afecta el que tengas un equipo divino o demoníaco. Que es unas ideas que se sacó de base para el juego.
Some news and announcements to make regarding Diablo 4 towards the end. And of course, we have our Q&A, which we'll be taking questions from Twitch chat. And then I know we actually have some questions from the forums because we had started a forum thread earlier this week or late last week regarding the developer update live stream. So. I do know that we do want to kick it off with a little bit about Season 2.
Yeah.
So, want to jump straight into it?
Let's dive in. So, I know that we just watched the video together where we talked about the Season of Blood, but in Season 2, the players are going to be confronting a new villain who's begun to surface throughout Sanctuary. A character named Lord Zir, this ancient vampire who's awoken recently and begun to
nuevo villano ha dicho que se llama Lord Zirus.
These vampire cultists and other followers to his banner.
La mecánica de la Season 2 es
overtake Sanctuary and
enemigos, vampiros,
aims across the world. Now, while the player is progressing through the season, they're going to meet a new character named Eris, who I think we have.
Iris va a ser, o Aris va a ser la nueva
Eris
NPC.
Is a vampire hunter who's been trying to thwart Lord Zir for the past the past few weeks and months. Trying to hunt them down and try to eliminate them entirely. She's not having great luck sort of investigating the cult. She needs more help. The player is going to kind of enter the picture, but as part of the story, as the player is progressing through the season, mild spoiler here, but the player is going to contract vampirism. But due to the strange nature of the interaction with the player character, they're going to be able to resist some of the effects of Lord Zir's influence. And instead gain all of the same powers without those detriments that are holding back other creatures. Which can be really, really cool. But
Eris is going to be fairly nervous about this, as she's only ever seen anyone who ends up actually contracting vampirism this way end up following and serving Lord Zir in the end, regardless of their intentions overall, which we'll, we dig more into a little bit later on with enemies and such. But this represents this really interesting new character that you'll be able to work with as you're kind of following the quest line of the season. So as you're going through these things, you'll be kind of going across all of the world. And I know, Antonio, we talked about how, or rather we have talked before about how there are a number of dungeons we added with the season, right. And you kind of go into some of those part of the quest line.
Vale, detalles.
Yeah, so we have new dungeons
en la season 2, el personaje se evoluciona en la quest line.
You can explore crypts. There's a really cool dungeon at the end when you.
Y la mecánica de la season, una de las mecánicas de la season es explorar criptas.
And in addition to that, throughout the story, you will be revisiting some old places that are a bit different now that Zir's minions have come and taken over.
Yeah. So I've seen, I think we're seeing some of the dungeon stuff here.
Yep.
So the new dungeons in the quest line are pretty cool, particularly that finale that you called out, like when you're getting to sort of get a chance to, once you've tracked down Lord Zir with Eris and you get a chance to really confront him in his lair, those are some pretty epic moments that we don't want to actually show on stream just now.
Spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers for all that stuff just yet.
Pero hay momentos épicos en los que Eris va a participar.
So the player's going to meet other
Son dungeons temáticas como las del season 1.
There are other allies they kind of are going to meet. They're going to learn more about Lord Zir's plans overall, what his real intentions are for.
Hay más NPCs, más aliados, más cosas que vamos a conocer.
That's kind of like the high level of what's happening in the world. Basically, Lord Zir and his army of vampiric cultists are trying to take everything over, and that manifests in a bunch of different ways throughout the season. But I think the first thing I really want to talk about, or the next thing I want to talk about, are the mechanics, like what you're going to be doing.
Vale, entonces, el dar los Zirus tiene como una enorme cantidad de vampiros y demás, cada uno con habilidades y demás, y vamos a hablar de la mecánica de la season.
Of the Season of Blood. And part of that comes down to making sure that we have cool vampiric powers for players to
Hay poderes vampíricos.
So what we see here is our vampiric power user interface. It's the way players are going to be able to collect a lot of powers as they're progressing through the season, and then slot them into the circular UI above. So throughout the season, players are going to be able to acquire up to 22 vampiric powers as they play. And these are designed such that they are, unlike with Wellington Hearts, we had a lot of very class-specific hearts baked in. We tried to make sure that the vampiric powers that players collect in Season 2 are all class-agnostic in nature, so that there's just more combinations and things for players to select from.
Y que estos no son como tan dirigidos como los corazones. Aquí puedes usar cualquier poder en cualquier personaje.
Shown up right here. They come with a few different varieties in terms of the level of power of them, and each of them have a pact cost. Well, I will talk about it a little bit more in just a moment. But you see these pact costs listed at the bottom. Players need to acquire a certain armor pieces that have these packs associated with them in order to fuel these. Again, which I'll talk about a little more in a minute. Why don't we actually see if we take a look at maybe a couple of these powers themselves real fast. Yeah, so here's one. So players can have a vampiric power they get as they're progressing through the season, where their evade allows them to turn to like a cloud of bats, and it also makes them unstoppable for a few seconds after they use it at the same time. And it's a way for the player to deliver a new effect that you can get throughout the season, which is called Vampiric Curse. So when you see that red effect above a lot of the creatures that the player is fighting, they're under the effects of Vampiric Curse. And if you kill them while that effect is active on those creatures, you get to steal their souls and bind them to you for a short period of time, up to 8 of them at a time.
Puedes comerte las almas de los enemigos y hacer que luchen por ti y meter algo llamado maldición vampírica. Y las almas que robas las puedes lanzar para que luchen por ti, como que son corris y mola. Groups or elites that you might have to come across as you're playing. Parece la season de los negros con Infinity.
Like there's abilities for based on other companion skill uses and other things where you can have we have this where the bats will come down.
Sí, son nuevos corazones. Parece que por ahora la mecánica va a ir por ese. O la season van a ir por esa dirección.
Power we showed before. There's another one here that is more focused on channeling skills. Yeah, here it is. So when you start using channeling skills, you'll be able to drop this pool of blood around you, which gives you some extra protection. It also enhances all the damage that you deal while you're nearby. So this is going to be able to fire when you're using any kind of channeling skill and enhance those channeling skills. It just gives you a bit more positional gameplay to be thinking about when you're playing into this build. So pretty fun ways for you to kind of maximize and get extra damage rather from a channeling.
Creas un círculo de sangre mientras estés dentro, tanqueas un poquito más y metes más.
That I like about the vampiric curse is that there are a few different ways, a few different things that can trigger it, and a few different ways to key off it. And so a lot of these vampiric powers have interactions with that curse. It kind of forms a unifying thread in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really cool extra ability for players to play with, and being able to trigger it in different ways is very fun, we think. So the next thing I want to talk about was actually how you're able to fuel your vampiric powers, those packs I talked about before. So if you look here in the inventory screen, you'll see that that all of the armor pieces that players are collecting are going to have a set number of packs associated with them. So you see here on the items themselves, like they all have these small symbols off on the left-hand side, or underneath them, or rather. And these represent the various packs that players can collect of the 3 different types to fuel all the vampiric powers they can collect. Because ultimately, you want to gather all your vampiric powers, you want to level them all up to level 3 to make them as strong as you can get them.
Que aparte de los rangos de mejora de legendario, tienes rangos de
impacto. Care about. And to do that, you need to make sure that you've got the right kinds of armor pieces available. You know, the packs are only going to appear in armor, they don't appear on jewelry or on weapons, just on armor pieces.
En piezas de armadura, ¿no? Joyería o armas.
I should say, every armor piece that drops during the course of the Season of Blood
will always have
packs associated with them as well. So you're not looking for items that are going to have. It's not rare in that way. And as the player progresses through the season, they're going to also gain these new items they're able to collect from completing various content types. We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But these allow players to basically remove packs from items. They allow them to eject new packs into items, up to the pack limit, which is based upon the tier of content the player is playing in. So normal items have 3, and then sacred have 4, and then on to 5 as you go into ancestral. So as you're progressing through, you can get more of these packs, and you have a lot more control over your ultimate pack loadout on your items as you collect more and more of these consumables that you can use to kind of modify and update your items. So we're really excited about this. Great ways to get these are going and completing other, like I mentioned, the Blood Harvest in the video. We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But killing Blood Seekers is a way to get these in a really good way. So there's lots of ways to kind of grab these. So that is
hasta 4 cada pieza, o sea que podemos tener hasta 20.
Level. We'll talk more about the about other things you'll be doing to gain those vampiric powers.
Pero qué cambia tener un pacto u otro.
When we're talking about season 2.
Hola Alfred, gracias Alfred.
New enemies.
Esos pactos te cuestan después para poder activar un poder vampírico.
So as part of Season 2, we actually added a bunch of new monsters. Lord Zier has a ton of different minions that will be all throughout the continent.
Pero si eso es un requisito, es como yo me quiero poner estas 3 reliquias. Vale, cumple con los requisitos, fin. Es toda su mecánica.
Vampires. They have a bunch of really cool new attacks. You'll see them all over the overworld. You'll see them in a variety of dungeons. Paired with these guys, we also have our blood skeletons. These guys are kind of similar to our regular skeletons, but they also come with new attacks that allow you to have new counterplay and techniques in order to defeat them and get around them. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, they have a little bit more area denial baked into their kits, right? As you're fighting some of the blood skeletons.
Yeah, you definitely want to watch where you step, when you're engaging with these guys.
Yeah. And the vampires have these cool things where they occasionally drop these giant heart.
Ya están reciclando, o sea que en total debe haber 4 minions.
Sometimes they'll be able to trigger shields off of these things. So you kind of change your target priority as you're going through spaces where you have to fight shadow vampires.
4 nuevos minions.
To make sure that you're knocking these things out to prevent those shields from being applied. So yeah, there's some cool things to react to as part of this. But of course, that's not even the only creature, right? Because there's the man himself, right?
Yeah. So we also have Lord Zier. Here he is on his throne.
Brooding.
He is the mastermind. You will be facing off with him throughout the season and during the end of the season. He is our big bad evil guy, and coming along with him are his lieutenants, the Bloodseekers.
Oh yeah, the Bloodseekers. So Bloodseekers are really cool. So Bloodseekers are a new idea in Season 2. And the concept here is that, as the player has been, is sort of protected a little bit by Lilith's blood in this way, that they're not able to be controlled by Lord Zier after they contract vampirism under his in his forces. There are other heroes who've gone out there that don't have that same level of protection. Who've gone out there trying to stop Lord Zier, trying to stop the vampiric advances. And they have fallen victim to the blood cults and to Lord Zier's forces that way. And for those characters, now you've got vampiric sorceresses, you've got vampiric barbarians, you've got these blood seekers out there looking to kill you. So as you're progressing through, you'll be dealing with enemy rogues, you'll be dealing with enemy druids and necromancers as you're playing, and dealing with their specific like spells and kits that we've created for the season for players to interact with. And honestly, finding Bloodseekers is great because these guys are just blood bags. You know, they drop. They have a really, really good chance to drop potent blood, and potent blood is going to be the currency that you're going to be collecting through the season. They'll be able to use to basically
la currency de la season se llama Potion Blood
and unlock new ones.
Y los Bloodseekers, los héroes revividos por el boss, tienen un montón de probabilidades de soltarlo.
Take them out because they are first they're pretty fun to fight, it's a little challenging, but they also have the ability to give you big upgrades for your vampiric powers, and they can jump you too, right? So like we make sure like Bloodseekers are. You'll find them in the world, particularly like in Blood Harvest. We'll talk about that again. I keep saying we'll talk about things in a minute, but you know, there are lots of chances to get them fight in Blood Harvest. You can also find them in dungeons and stuff too, right?
Yeah, so you can see them in the overworld, but they will also invade you in dungeons. So don't let them catch you slipping. They will be all over, finding you when you least expect it.
Yeah. So you just as you're passing through a dungeon, you will have a barbarian jump on you, whirlwind. You know, they'll be all trying to slow you down, right, and causing problems. Yeah, very, very fun. So yeah, a lot of new enemy types as part of the new season. So then I guess next thing is, finally it's time to talk about Blood Harvest. Yeah, okay.
Venga, Blood Harvest.
So I mentioned before that Lord Zir is taking over Sanctuary.
María de Sangre en versión
is really the way that we're representing that. Now, starting right at level 1, you'll find that Lord Zir's minions have taken over broad swaths of the 5 zones in Sanctuary. And it's going to be filled with like his minions out there trying to like drain the blood from a variety of different people. There's that
emergency alert.
There's that emergency alert we talked about.
There we go. Right. Now everyone gets to experience this together. And my phone as well. So.
No avisaba antes, está pasando algo en Estados Unidos y salta la alerta de los teléfonos.
Active, you'll find Lord Zir's armies like marching across Sanctuary, taking people hostage, taking them prisoner, draining them of blood, and just causing general havoc in these areas where there's like new propping and there's new creatures. There's lots of things to do as you're kind of going through this.
So what's the difference between Blood Harvest and Helltide?
Sure, there's a very
la diferencia entre María de Sangre y esta nueva
obviously there's some similarities to the way that things are working in Helltide. The difference here is that first of all it's available right away at level 1, you know, as you're progressing. But also while these events are active, there's always a Blood Harvest active across Sanctuary at any given time. Like
esto
when a
está
Blood Harvest
siempre.
ends in one location in Sanctuary, a new one's going to pop up as Lord Zir's forces now move to a new location. And one of the cool things about Blood Harvest that's a little bit different than things like Helltide is that as you're kind of going through and playing, you're going to be earning a couple of new materials that you don't get elsewhere. And that is, you're going to be able to earn Bloodlures, which Bloodlures that you'll be able to use to basically like bait Bloodseekers to come to you, to be able to fight packs of them as time goes on. And you're also going to be earning these vampiric keys you can use to open like prisoners like cuffs, to be able to open vampiric caches.
En estos sitios os van a soltar las llaves de vampiro y otros ítems que son específicos de la mecánica de temporada. Y solo se pueden farmear aquí.
These don't disappear at the end of a Blood Harvest. So as you collect them, they stay with you from that point forward. So there's not limited progress in that way. Yeah, here's an example of a player going and using Bloodlures to summon a few of the Bloodseekers in combat. So,
ahí canaliza la sangre de los enemigos en el altar y spawnea élites caídos y lucha con ellos. Esos son humanos.
Feature that we're adding in Season 2, which we're calling right here, it's called Hunter's Acclaim. And as you do things in the Blood Harvest area, as you're killing Bloodseekers, as you are freeing prisoners, as you're completing new Blood Harvest-themed whispers that are also going to be active in those areas, you're going to be earning Hunter's Acclaim that will allow you to basically go and earn a number of other rewards. Some of the vampiric powers that you want to unlock for your character are available through this system, a few of them, and then there's lots of like potent blood you can get from the system, and then also gear as well as you're progressing through. So there's a bunch of different stuff in here for players to do. It's we're really excited to see how they level up in this experience.
Han hibridado la marea de sangre con los eventos de PvP porque puedes farmear un material para luego usar en la tienda específica.
That's absolutely right. You'll still see Helltides as well, but you'll also see higher level Blood Harvest as you get into like World Tiers 3 and 4.
Awesome. So we got a lot of information here about Season 2, but Season 2 also has some other components to it that actually are beyond even just like seasonal stuff. Like, and I know people may have seen in the video the discussion that we quickly brought up like before the stream actually started, which was about the new bosses that are being added in. Can you guys kind of walk through like what the new endgame boss system is going to be for players that do want to kind of experience that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right that first and foremost, this is content we're adding to the Eternal Realm as well as the Seasonal Realm from this point forward. Yes. We're continuing to add more activities like this as time goes on. But there's actually, I think I have a handy-dandy chart, a very designery chart to help players understand kind of what we're talking about here. So what you see here is the way that we kind of look at the content progression of Diablo 4, the way the players are playing through the experience, the sorts of activities they engage with as they play at various stages.
Like in Season 1, right?
En Mundo 1 y 2.
Season and Season 1. So, yeah,
tienes para ganar renombre, exploración de zonas, completar Stronghold, hacer dungeons, hacer misiones, estatuas de Lily, desbloquear waypoints.
Eventually get out of World Tiers 1, 2, and get into World Tier 3 after you finish the capstone. Here you get to do, you have higher level whispers to do, you get exposed to Nightmare Dungeons for the first time, you get exposed to Helltide for the first time. World boss get a little bit tougher, Legion events get a little bit tougher, and we're making some changes there as well. And then eventually you get into World Tier 4, now you're getting your ancestral items, and you continue to move on through Nightmare Dungeons, and you continue on through Helltide until eventually you go and you confront Echo of Lilith, potentially.
Me parece muy claro este diagrama.
And you try to take her out. So that's kind of like what we had in place right at launch. Not even thinking about Season 1 necessarily, but that's like what the end game sort of looks like. It's a lot of Nightmare Dungeons, a lot of Helltide, right? And we've heard a lot of feedback from players, and also from our experiences playing the game, that players are looking for more milestones, they're looking for more goals, they're looking for more like things to farm, ways to make their characters powerful. So there's some big changes we're making as part of the Season of Blood. We can show that here. So now, when the player gets into World Tier 3, there's 2 new bosses for them, or 1 returning boss for them to go and engage with.
Tenemos el Eco de Barshan en Tier 3.
Echo of Varshan, our good boy Varshan that everybody loves.
Grigorie y de Galvan y Sein en las mareas de sangre. El Eco de Barshan en Tier 4. De Beast in the Eyes en las Nightmare Dungeons.
Specifically to get
Grigori de Galvanic en Tier 4. Todos ellos nos dan acceso a Duriel y al Rey Magot. Y Lord Cid en World Bosses y Legion Events.
El Rey de las Magos era como Magosas, ¿no? Algo así.
Now on this board here, you can see that I kind of like connect the dots in terms of where these things come from. So if you want to go hunt Varshan, you need to go complete Whispers. There's chances for you to find like malignant creatures as you're completing Whispers in the overworld. They have rare chances to occur. And you'll also be able to get these new malignant body parts you need from completing Whisper bounty turn-ins. So when you go and you get your cash reward at the end of a Whisper run, there's a chance for you to have one of the pieces that you need to summon Varshan and reconstitute him. Because in the Season of Blood, there are new layers that have been added around the world. And the lair for Varshan is in a kind of a corrupted hollow, malignant hollow beneath the Tree of Whispers. So right there's an entrance down in where you're able to fight some awesome malignant creatures. No malignant hearts dropping, but malignant creatures certainly down there. And at the end of that small dungeon, you're able to go and basically throw these materials into this new brazier that we've added to be able to summon Varshan back from the dead to fight him for the special loot that he has. Now, one of the new creatures that we're adding is this the Galvanic Saint, which we'll show off some of the new art for some of these characters in just a moment. But this is a new like very lightning-themed boss that players will be able to go and engage with as they complete Helltide content. They will learn Infernal Steel from opening various caches and use this as a way, as part of a new layer, to go and summon the Galvanic Saint and deal with his lightning-themed attacks. And that's actually something that might be worth pointing out. While we're not talking about the elemental resistance changes until next week when Adam comes back with Charles and they talk about all the class changes and itemization updates that are happening as part of the season, it's worth pointing out that several of the bosses in this chain have they are very elementally themed in terms of their attacks.
¿Cómo hacemos que la gente incluya resistencias elementales en su equipo? Vamos a hacer que los bosses nuevos metan un huevo de daño elemental, o se ponen o mueren.
For cold resist to find from the beast device later. So we'll talk about that.
Decían que había 5 bosses nuevos y uno de los 5 es el Eco de Barshan, que es un reciclado de esta temporada.
Sí, pero se accede al de forma diferente, entonces es un reciclado entre comillas nuevo.
So now we're talking about
y Duriel es reciclado de la historia principal.
Correcto.
Echo Varshan is now still available for you to fight in World Tier 4, where he drops.
Han dicho que había 5 endgame bosses, no han dicho nuevos.
And the Galvanic Saint is also available for players to fight to get ancestral versions of those unique items. So those are still there. Additionally, when you kill Varshan and when you kill the Galvanic Saint in World Tier 4, they drop summoning components that you need in order to summon Duriel, King of Maggots, who is a new level 100 boss that we're adding as part of the seasonal experience, who has a chance to drop unique items as well as a low chance to drop uber unique items.
Ojo, que estos nuevos bosses sueltan unique item y uber unique item.
Low chance. There's already a low chance. So what does that mean for a player for Uber Uniques now with this new system?
That's a great question. You will absolutely know people that have Uber Uniques after this goes live, and there's a way for you to farm them specifically from going after Duriel, right? It is still not every time you kill Duriel, you're gonna get an Uber Unique item. They are still very rare relative to other item types.
But it's not
like it was in the past. Like you're gonna see people in your clan that have Uber Uniques. You're gonna know people that have Uber Uniques. You have a way to hunt for these, right? In this world. So that's a really, really big push as part of the new seasonal program.
Dice, vale, van a seguir siendo raros, pero vas a tener una forma de farmearlos, lo cual significa van a aparecer muchos
I
más.
didn't talk about too much. The first is the Beast in Ice. So the Beast in Ice is a new boss that you can go and summon after you start completing Nightmare Dungeons higher than Tier 30. So Tier 31 plus Nightmare Dungeons, level 85-ish monsters and so on from there. As you fight and complete these Nightmare Dungeons, there's chances for the components that you need to drop at the end of the Nightmare Dungeon you'll be able to use to make a new special Nightmare Dungeon key that explicitly brings you to the Beast in Ice's lair. So that is the way that you're able to summon forth the Beast in Ice.
Dice, cuando estás completando Uber Dungeons de nivel 21 a 100,
potent items as well.
Sigilos.
And then lastly, for the new boss we're adding with the season,
te puede caer la key de Beast in Ice.
While you will be able to confront like a story version of Lord Vizier as you go through the quest line in World Tier 1 and 2, there is a much more difficult, challenging version of Lord Vizier to fight in World Tier 4. Once you're ready for that content, and you'll be able to access and summon forth Lord Vizier this way, as you kill world bosses in Season 4, and as you kill, in Season 2 rather, Season 4. As you kill world bosses, yeah, I know, I really am. As you kill world bosses in World Tier 4, and as you complete Legion events in World Tier 4, you'll be able to gather these materials forward and bring them to go and summon Lord Vizier. So a couple extra things to kind of call out here. Actually, why don't we show? I think we have video of these new bosses. Yeah, okay. You see Gregoire summoning in for the first time. Very excited for players to go and do that fight. The Beast in Ice.
Se ven muy épicos, ¿eh?
And of course,
Duriel,
maggots.
So gross.
Yeah, it's super gross. Very fun. So yeah,
estos son los tres que no conocemos.
Obviously, we still have Lord Vizier.
Luego tenemos también a Varsan
y a Lilith. To show off the boss fight just yet, but you'll get a chance to go and obviously fight a version of him in the quest line and a much more difficult version of him later.
El de hielo, Lurbar y Duriel.
One other thing worth calling out as part of this. The materials that players are going to be collecting to use to summon forth these bosses. There's a couple of advantages. First, if you've got friends, you can try to farm these components up together and use that as a way to more quickly access these fights and get more chances and opportunities to get some loot off these bosses that you're looking for. But you can also trade these materials between players as well. So if you've got half the things you might need to summon Varshan, but you don't have the other half, you can go on trade chat and try to find the remaining components. Spend the gold necessary to maybe exchange for those things, and then go more quickly summon the bosses that you need. And also, as you collect these materials, you realize you may have overfarmed the materials that you need to summon, and you got the items you're really looking for early enough. Now you have a chance to go and take those and maybe sell those off, to make a tidy profit for yourself, so you can have an easier time enchanting items and other things as you go.
Exactly. Make friends.
Yeah, make friends for sure.
Haz amigos porque las que no van a ser lo suficientemente comunes y podéis juntarlos entre varios.
Unique loot tables that have specific uniques on them that you can target.
That's right. So if you're looking for a particular unique item in the game, and we've added a lot of unique items in Season 2 as well that also can all appear on these bosses, you will be able to you will know the sorts of bosses you're looking for in order to farm for those items, right? So if you're looking for something, there is a boss that's going to drop it, you know what you need to go target farm and try to get those items.
Dice que van a añadir suficientes legendarios y únicos y que lo que tenemos que hacer es enterarnos de dónde salen y podremos hacer target farming, ir a determinado sitio a farmear determinado ítem.
Some of these bosses that within the 5 of them on their drop tables, but then like Joe and Joe have mentioned, you can find unique items off of them, and Uber Duriel has the opportunity of dropping Uber uniques, and yes, you will find people and know people that and may find yourself an actual Uber uniques with this season and going forward, because again, this is in Eternal Realm and this is in every season going forward.
Y esto se aplica a todos estos cambios tanto al mundo eterno como a la season.
People have been asking about like unique items and hey, are there going to be like any future changes for unique items? And I just want to note, like, because we had been talking about the stream on October 10th, where we just have a lot to talk about today, so we're actually splitting up the streams. But on October 10th, we're talking more about class balance changes. We're also talking about unique item updates. In fact, nearly every unique item is getting some sort of update in Diablo 4, and we're actually going to be talking more about that on the 10th.
Vale, van a hacer cambios en casi todos los únicos y los hablaremos más adelante.
Big things to actually kind of hunt for players when they
el día 10, el 10 de octubre, vamos a tener un segundo Campfire donde se va a desarrollar todo esto sobre los aspectos más técnicos.
Of course, we're also going to be talking about, resistances more on the 10th with Adam Jackson, and some of the damage bucket changes. Like, I know we have like crit, vulnerable, and overpowered.
Hay cambios al daño crítico, vulnerable, resistencias elementales, etc.
Adjusted and tuned, kind of what we mentioned in prior streams. So that will all be happening.
Por cierto, los nuevos bosses son de daño de tipo fuego, rayo y veneno.
We got to hear a little bit about the bosses here. Now we do want to talk about some of the gameplay updates and some changes that are coming to Diablo 4, which is a huge list that we actually do have. So it's going to take us be prepared. We got a lot of slides and a lot to discuss here, but we do want to kind of jump right into them so we can kind of get through all of them for sure. And a lot of this, and I do want to like preface, a lot of this is based off of things we've heard within the community feedback, and also just changes that we most definitely wanted to make to the game.
Punto 1. Si estás jugando hardcore y te desconectas, automáticamente se te va a consumir un scroll of escape si lo llevas para salvarte. O sea, las desconexiones ya no matan jugadores.
Yeah, and so we can see, I'm going to talk about Scroll of Escape here. I just wanted to mention, we're seeing some of the images of some of the mount and some of those item art.
Oh, yeah.
Those are also new cosmetics that are exclusive to, that you can get from farming.
That's correct. Yes, these are exclusively dropped from the various bosses that we're talking about in Season 2.
Yeah.
On Eternal and Seasonal.
Hay cosméticos nuevos que solo caen de los nuevos bosses.
Seasonal, we mean that these are going to persist. Persist beyond Season 2.
That's correct. Yeah, these bosses aren't going to go away at the end of the season. We want to add more things for players to do once they get into these World Tier 3 and 4 content tiers. There's more updates we want to make to existing content types. We'll talk about some of those things today.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more planned. This is sort of like the first step in like creating more interesting activities for players as they get into World Tier 4, especially as they think about 100, especially making sure there's more fun things for players to do and engage in.
More for an endgame.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Scrolls of Escape. It's been a little while coming, but Scrolls of Escape will now be consumed automatically if you disconnect while you're in combat. Because this is a consumable item.
Sí, esto va a dar lugar a una macro que cuando te vas a apurar la macro del TF4 y te salva y ya está.
People are,
el panic button que hay en
You're still going to consume that item. So we feel pretty good about this change, and it always sucks to die to a disconnect in hardcore.
Never fun.
Inciensos, which are the party-wide version of elixirs, of course.
No se quitan cuando te mueres y te dan bonus de experiencia, así que ahora todos llevaremos poti e inciensos.
More useful. Now this is a big one. We have a bunch
los bonos de experiencia ahora son multiplicativos con los World Tier bonus.
Go over here. You're going to see a few
ya no son aditivos, son multiplicativos. Son, creo que era un 0, un 20, un 50, un 100 o un 200, algo así.
Adjustments to experience in season 1
así que literalmente ganas el doble de experiencia en World 4.
All this is sort of coming together with some changes to how experience is calculated in terms of which things are multiplicative. So the way this will work is, in general, you've got different kinds of experience bonuses. So you've got maybe a bonus from
no es mejor aditivo que multiplicativo, mucho mejor multiplicativo.
You've got other experience bonuses maybe from seasonal blessings. These are going to add together in a bucket and then be multiplicative with the World Tier bonus. This means that these experience bonuses will be much more impactful in Season 2 than they were in Season 1.
No, pero este no. Este tú tenías un 265% de objetivo máximo, si no recuerdo mal.
And cumulatively, your time, compared to Season 1, your time to get to level 100 is going to be 40% faster.
Yep, about 40% faster
than it was in season 1. Yeah, in season 2. This is, you know...
why would we do that?
Well, you know, we found that season 2 is really about, we just talked about all of the boss changes that add more content to do as you're leveling up. We also want players to be able to get to level 100. It's a goal that many players set for themselves, and it should be an achievable goal. And so in season 1, we saw that there were some players who were getting frustrated. You maybe get to level 75, and you're like, I want there to be more things to do, and this is like, just feels like it kind of slows down. And we really wanted to smooth that over and make the process of reaching that goal and getting to the end of the season journey feel like an achievable goal for
Vale, dice que hay momentos o a nivel 50, 60, 70 que de pronto pega un bajón el tema de la experiencia y el personaje se vuelve mucho más lento y que no quieren que sea así, quieren que de verdad tengan la oportunidad de seguir teniendo esa progresión rápida y eso depende de que apliquen bien los multiplicadores. Según vas superando la dificultad, vayas pudiendo subir mucho más rápido. Y ahora cuando esquipeas la campaña, en vez de darte solo las ciudades, te van a dar también dos teleports en cada zona.
That means you don't have to do quite as much running to unlock waypoints as you're going. This isn't every single waypoint, but it's key strategic waypoints that are related to places that you want to go and are centrally located.
Yeah, make it a little bit easier to get around. So as you're like leveling up your character initially. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some other changes. There's kind of a suite of changes. You know, I was just talking about a number of changes to experience. There's also a suite of changes to sort of town efficiency, and this is the first one we're going to talk about some more in a little bit. This is a big one. I know this is one that's close to Joe's heart in particular. Renown rewards will now persist between seasons. So what this means is that when you create a new character in a season, you can still earn renown, you can still do side quests if that's something that you enjoy doing. You can go and do strongholds, you can do all of those content types, but all of the rewards that are associated with renown will persist. So if you had, and you don't have to, you're not going to have to log in on a different character or anything. Like any reward that you've claimed, if you claimed it in pre-season, on Eternal, in Season 1,
¡ojo! Por fin.
on any character,
vale.
you're going to
Estaba esperando que dijera lo que acaba de decir. Reworkean el renombre. Ahora, si tú ya tienes algo reclamado en No Season o en Season 1, lo tienes reclamado en Season 2, sin importa el avance. Lo que significa que se acabó lo de tener que desbloquear fortalezas o hacer misiones secundarias o hacer... Esto acaba de acortar un huevo la vida útil de la Season.
Yeah,
acaban de hacer mucho más corta.
This is something that's a really good point, Antonio, because when we are talking about these general improvements, what these came from is a lot like us, the dev team, playing the game, and I think Joe mentioned this before,
de quitar una semana de farmeo.
Playing the game and then reading feedback from players, feedback on social, feedback from videos, everything, and really looking at like what are players asking for.
A mí el farmeo de renombre me parece una oportunidad.
Because you know, we talked back in season 1, like our goal is to continue making the game
las misiones secundarias de
Kyrgyzstan. This is really
y te las ves y las aprendes y estudias un poco y ves las historias que han creado.
I think making sure that players have more choices when they are able to log into their seasonal character right away and not feel like they've got this oppressive goal of needing to completely fill out their renown in order to play optimally.
Sí, claro. Puedes ir completando el renombre para conseguir oro y experiencia, pero es evidente que forman mucho más eficientes.
Now, you're not going to need to log in like you did last time when we made changes in the past. Now, like, after you've claimed these rewards in a previous character, you're just going to have.
Dice que esta vez no es necesario que hagamos un relogueo para que se actualice nuestra cuenta, que si ya lo hemos hecho ya se aplica automáticamente.
I disrupted your flow.
No, it's all right. Let's go to the next bullet. Overworld monsters. Yes. So this relates to another change. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. But overworld monsters will now match your player level in World Tiers 3 and 4. I know that you know, this is in preseason.
¿Qué significa trail?
And we ran into some challenges with the game not feeling like you were getting upgrades that really felt powerful, and players rightly called that out. Like, look, I want to get powerful new items, and then I want to smash monsters.
Yeah,
and
you want to feel more powerful.
That's a really core part of the loop. So this change makes these monsters on par with your level. This is based on reviewing season 1, but it's coupled with some other changes that make sure that it does feel meaningful and powerful. And you're not just feeling like, oh, I'm just sort of playing catch up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
And of course, at the end of season 1, your season 1 character is going to migrate to the Eternal Realm.
Vale.
And so we've added 2 additional character slots.
En vez de tener espacio para 10 personajes, podemos tener espacio para 12. Si te meten 2 huecos más de personaje cada season, yo contento. Yo 2 personajes por temporada estoy contento. Y nos metieron también un stats, si nos meten un stats por temporada también contento.
All that information that's going to be posted immediately after this live stream. We have a huge blog that will be essentially talking about everything related to season 2. And so all the details about how that
Lo que significa que si los huevos se estancan a 55 y a 75,
like if you play Diablo 2 Resurrected, you'll know exactly how that works, and it's very similar to that. But all that information will be on a blog.
Básicamente, cuando tú estás en mundo de nivel 3, los overworld lo que hacen es que suben de nivel contigo. Y si tú te vas a matar a un boss de mundo, a un overworld, siendo nivel 80, el bicho se pone a tu nivel. Ya no.
To make towns a little more efficient, and that's like really a focus of ours as we kind of move forward. First up, the occultist is now set up by the Tree of Whispers.
Vendedores,
so when you go
ocultista.
Back from Whispers, there are additional functions you can perform right there without having to like fly off to Kyovashad or anywhere else to go do other work. So I think that's nice for the loop. We've gone through. We've added stashes much more liberally throughout Sanctuary. This is the first of those changes. So any small town,
todas las ciudades pequeñitas que tienen teleport van a tener ahora nuestro alijo. La cultista va a tener una tienda como el árbol de los susurros. Los stats se han movido para que estén cerca de los vendedores. Se agradece que no estén en mitad de la nada. No es que haya más stats, eso es lo que los han recolocado para que haya más y mejor colocados. Se agradece.
And then, of course, purveyors of curiosities. These lovable rogues, really tucked themselves away in a distant corner of a lot of the capital cities throughout Sanctuary.
Y se han movido algunos vendedores para que no estén tan spliteados. Básicamente, se elimina ya la parte en la que los mercaderes estaban tan spliteados.
For Kyovashad, like the purveyor of curiosities is now like right in the tavern.
¿En serio?
So it's just a lot easier to go and spend your obols as you're accruing them, and it's harder for you to forget that you have obols.
O sea, lo que vas a hacer va a ser poner 25 stases por el...
Purveyor has become more social.
Pensé que lo habían movido y no, lo que hacen es poner más.
Integrate with the rest of the people in town.
It's like he realized his shady deal.
Soy bro. Es muy probable que seas más que bro.
Might as well do them out in the
Gracias por eso.
The law is a rough construct.
Hola Belwa, gracias por ese prime.
So in this way, that they're back in the good graces.
And I know, like, because we've heard from players like, hey,
bueno, a ver, es una mejora,
they spend a lot of time in town, obviously. Like, if they're going to be at the blacksmith or at the purveyor, at the occultist or anything, this is now going to just help make that a little bit more efficient, especially if they're going to different
paraos a pensar una cosa, si esta gente no sabe programar los stases, que haya 5 stases significa que multiplica por 5 la carga gráfica porque carga el stase en cada uno de esos stases, y ahora de pronto cuando alguien entra en ciudad hay 12 personas en vez de con un stas cada uno con 5 stases. Mira que estos programas regulín.
Want to talk about mounts? Yes, we should talk about mounts. This was something that we talked about before. This is something that Mr. Joe Shelley
te metes a hacer una misión al sótano y hay otro
as X, formerly known as Twitter.
Did he make a post?
He made a post, not a tweet.
Abres el stas y hay un stas.
But and we've had a lot of people ask about this.
Ahora, el stas de la mecánica de temporada otra vez estará solo en Kyovashad, que es solo un coñazo.
Go through all our changes coming from mounts?
Yeah, let's take a look at them. The first off, there are a number of changes to mounts, but I want to call out that the one that players and we feel is the most significant here is it's just that they're going to get stuck less, right? So when you're
se ha metido un efecto que hace que las monturas de forma automática salten cualquier tipo de impedimento que se encuentre en chiquitín, tipo piedras o chorradas del estilo. La montura ahora va a funcionar mucho mejor.
Mounts can jump over regular jump traversals just like your player, but we're a little bit finicky about it.
They were very finicky.
I think some people didn't.
No han hablado todavía el PvP.
In practice, they didn't always they didn't always, they were a little bit too
scared. A ver, de vez en cuando se os quedará pillado, pero en general hemos hecho que... Porque los decorados del escenario están divididos en base a su tamaño. Los más pequeños se los van a esquipear. Velocidad. Los caballos van a ser más rápidos. De base. La velocidad cuando le metes el sprint no cambia.
The maximum boost speed is still the same, but your base movement speed unboosted is going to be 14% faster.
Ahora, el sprint va a durar un 50% más. Y usar el sprint romperá las barricadas, no te tienes que descabalar. Hostia, esto es muy bueno. Tenemos un estás a la montura. ¡Qué cabra! Gracias por ese Prime. Esto está muy bien, esto es un cambio muy importante. Que la montura no se estuquee, no se bloquee. Que tenga más velocidad base, que la sprint dure mucho más y que rompa barricadas. Dios, esto cambia totalmente la montura, lo hace mucho menos molesto.
So we made a change here. We didn't remove. Some players have suggested let's just make it binary. I should be at full speed all the time. But we made a change that makes it. The cursor is much more generous.
Claro, podríamos hablar que pudiese saltar barrancos, barricadas, etc. Los barros.
About half or so of the screen. Beyond that, it'll be at full speed, and so you really have to have the cursor close to your mount if you do want to slow down. And because it is still handy for navigating around.
Molaría, que puestos a poner estas pongan por el resto del mundo 50 estas más y sean mímicos.
Yeah, it just makes the mount a little less. A little easier to use.
Ahora tendrá monturas del Diablo Inmortal. Right? No, pero detrás estás.
It's easier to reach that top speed. You don't have to have the mouse as far away and be planning your path at the very edge of the screen constantly. It's just generally not how people play and when they're moving in the game.
Yeah.
It's usually a bit closer to their character when they choose their movement options with the mouse.
La barricada no aporta nada, no, automáticamente se aportan. Hay momentos, hay sitios en los que los bichos, si roleas un poco, tienen que estar en una barricada. Hay dentro del rol del mundo.
That is 41%. Those experience changes are massive. So.
This is just additive to it.
Hay una cosa que no han dicho y es la velocidad de movimiento de la montura. ¿Es aditiva o multiplicativa?
Like town efficiency is also something that players care a lot about. No dijeron. So I mentioned the speed, the spur. This is your speed boost on the mount. We increased the duration. The rate at which you acquire spur charges is the same, so that means that with the increased duration, you're going to be able to be boosted a lot more of the time. Yeah, quite. It's close to 100%. I think it's pretty significant.
Yep.
And of course, this is great because those pesky barricades that would previously cause you
rompe las barricadas, pasa de largo. O sea que si te quieres mover, te muevas. Lo veo muy limpio,
Right. Look at this fancy in slide video. Just added. Like the quality of the production has just gone up. Just as oh, look at this.
We got some production value.
Fancy.
So you can see the player boosting through the barricade there.
You also see the player using
dismount skill, and we have some changes related to that as well. So some cooldown changes.
Oh yeah, these are really big.
Tema los cooldown.
As Adam mentioned, I posted about this on
Esto no lo entendí nunca. El cooldown cuando tú te bajabas del caballo voluntariamente pasó de ser 5 segundos a 10. Lo han devuelto a su estado original. Si tú desmontas en combate, el cooldown pasa de ser de 10 segundos a 3. Si tú desmontas de normal, pasa de ser de 10 segundos a 5. Y si te derriban, pasa de ser de 30 segundos a 15. Esto también es un quality of life increíblemente bueno. Desmontar el combate es cuando te bajas para hacer un ataque. Y el manual de Discovery sencillamente te bajas del caballo y punto. Esto se agradece un huevo. Estos quality of life están muy bien.
And you get knocked off your horse, the cooldown for getting back on the horse also halved from 30 seconds to 15.
Es muy generoso, está muy bien.
As I mentioned, the dismount combat skill. Like this is a really cool skill.
También os digo, si no tenemos que perder 30 segundos cada vez que lo derriban el caballo, ni tenemos que bajarnos de las monturas para derribar las barricadas, ni tenemos que coger 2 waypoints de cada zona, ni tenemos que volver a refarmear todo el renombre, acaban de reducir la duración de la season a una cuarta parte.
You just end up not using it.
I would like make circles around attacks, you know,
if you have like 2 seconds left or something.
So wait, hold on, monsters. I'm going to do this cool ability.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a little bit.
Just wait, it's happening. I promise. Yeah. So.
Yeah, very cinematic, but not as fun.
Awesome. So I know now. Oh,
God.
Wow. Okay.
¿Por qué te bajarías manualmente? Porque tienes
production behind the scenes, by the way.
En cooldown.
Yeah, honestly,
they're just smiling back there as they make these like crazy swipes between transitions. But we are now going to talk about some changes coming for Nightmare Dungeons.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Vale, cambios a las Nightmare Dungeons.
Antonio, I know, can kind of go take
a los sigílicos.
All our changes here.
Finally, this is what I'm here for.
This is the moment.
This is what I work on. So, yeah, we have tons of changes for Nightmare Dungeons coming this season. The very first big change that we have
buen cambio.
is
Cuando te teletransportas a una Nightmare Dungeon, a un sigilo, ya no te teletransportas a la puerta, haces otro cargando y entras. No, aparece directamente dentro. Esto tenía que haber sido así desde el segundo cero.
When you just want to go and play grind more.
Estos cambios vienen en 11 días. El día 10 tenemos un segundo Campfire.
This will be a pretty popular change. I think this is something that people have wanted for a while, ever since we first implemented teleporting to Nightmare Dungeons.
Yeah, getting rid of this extra load screen, I think is going to be a huge
La única o sea, esto es cojonudo. La única pregunta que tengo es, ¿por qué no era así de base? O sea, ver algo tan básico y considerarlo un logro demuestra que algo se hizo muy mal de primeras.
vMix. People are claiming we're doing this in PowerPoint.
Eventos. Va a haber mucha más densidad dentro de los eventos, dentro de las fallas. Esos eventos que skipeamos todos.
No. All right, sorry.
Y ahora, los NPCs ya no van a ser one-shoteados.
So, our dungeon events
que muchas veces te jodían los eventos porque te one-shoteaban un NPC. ¿Crees que va a revivir Diablo? ¿Quién dice que esté muerto?
More importantly, in higher world tiers, your NPCs
creo que va a ser
no
igual que
longer
hasta
get
ahora.
one shot.
Bastante bien. Cada season lo mejora y le mete más parches y le mete más contenido. Lo que pasa es que la gente que, ¿cómo decirlo? La generación TikTok tenéis un problema, es que no entendéis que en Diablo el contenido es aditivo y gradual. Diablo te tardó 13 años en tener un contenido realmente bueno.
Yeah, we're looking at dungeon events a lot just between the seasons and player feedback to make sure that they're fun to play and people want to engage with them. And this is kind of one of those things that we saw. We're like, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, so next we have traps. In our dungeons, the overall readability has been improved.
Nos han metido trampas en las dungeons.
On the player has been reduced. Look at that slow motion.
Slow motion action shot.
So it will be easier to see these.
Vamos a tener mucho menos
when you do get hit by them,
nos han hecho que el personaje tenga mucho menos CC, pero a cambio tenemos más gameplay. Hay trampas y interactuables.
Yeah, and I want to.
¿Qué te recomiendo comprar? La versión estándar o la deluxe. Actualmente la estándar. Yo creo que la deluxe valía la pena para el early access.
We're not just talking about CC on the traps, right?
Right. We're talking about just CC across the board from monsters. Just in general, like your CC time will be decreased.
Yeah. So if I get stunned by a vampire knight.
Cada cosa que dicen que están arreglando, veo un vídeo de Carbot Animation. El vídeo del cooldown, el vídeo del caballo. Ese señor me hizo muy bien.
The Nightmare Dungeon because you died.
Right. Yeah. And this is really valuable with increased density, of course, because there are more monsters on screen.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a pretty extensive amount of changes coming for CC. So when players get a chance to check out the patch notes and everything, they'll see the full run through of all the changes that are coming up for CC.
Yeah, very cool.
Buah, está activando las trampas para que ataquen para que dañen a los enemigos.
Yeah, I do love this footage.
I can't get enough of it.
Ojo, nos han dado interfaz.
Fragments, interesting. What those are.
And also our
la experiencia que ganan los glifos se mejora.
This sort of
antes tardábamos a lo mejor, yo que sé, 30 mazmorras en llenar un glifo. Vamos a ver ahora.
You also will get your Paragon glyph leveled a bit faster, so that as you are leveling up, your Paragon scales effectively with it, and you can feel more powerful faster.
No especifican cuánto, solo que vamos a ganar más experiencia.
No,
there's more stuff.
Oh, okay, well then sure.
You can't have nightmare dungeons without the afflictions,
That's
right?
True. Talk about afflictions.
So, we have
los monstruos que te golpean por detrás te vuelven vulnerable.
Afflictions, we are constantly like looking at these and evaluating their feedback. The first one up that I had to talk about is backstabbers. So what it used to be was when a monster attacked you from behind, it just did a set increase in damage, which led to a lot of cases where players were getting one shot, right? So we changed this so that the close monsters attacks from behind will now cause you to become vulnerable, and then that vulnerable damage that you take is increased on a scaling metric, so the higher the dungeon
Antes era que si te pegaban por detrás te hacían un 150% más de daño. Ahora es que te vuelven vulnerable, con lo que yo supone, y que el daño cambia X%, que de base creo que es un 20%.
You can play around this, you can react to it.
Para que no pase lo que pasaba, sobre todo en hardcore, que es que te metías en alguna mamorra y de pronto un bicho te va un golpe y te one-shoteaba.
Yeah, I mean, just that vulnerable condition there does give you that opportunity to sort of see, like, actually, look, yeah, my health globe is cracked now. Yeah, okay, I need to be more careful as I'm.
El daño actual de la Season 1 es 150%.
Right.
Cuando te pegan en el cacas.
For monster critical resist,
resistencia a los críticos.
Now the monster attacks reduce the damage of your critical strikes for 3 seconds, and then this also scales by the dungeon tier. So now once again, like if this happens to you, you have the opportunity to play around it, and it's not just completely nerfing your damage the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, people would avoid this one, this affliction particularly, because it was a massive.
Los enemigos tienen resistencia durante 3 segundos, que es una barbaridad.
Just in general,
al daño crítico y encima es stackeable.
Afflictions that are instant salvage, right? We don't want you to like look at your sigils and say, oh, I don't want to play that, and then just toss it every single time you see it. So this is sort of like a greater effort to make this a bit more fun, so you can see it and know that like it's going to be more difficult, but not unplayable.
Right.
Death Pulse. So we made some changes to Death Pulse. Now we prevent the Death Pulses from monsters that already have death explosions, like the lunatics.
Hay un caso on death que es que yo, si me pegas, exploto, como los gordetes que sueltan arañas y cosas del estilo. Y luego hay un modificador que era el pulso de muerte, que es que cuando lo matas generan un circuito en el suelo que explota. Claro, cuando se combinaban los dos, tú veías una explosión y te metías, y había una segunda explosión. Ahora os salta una o la otra, las dos no.
And I'm like, all right, I'm all good, and then I run in and like, no, there's more explosions.
Yeah. And we're good.
La mecánica temporal no está disponible en la campaña.
Storm. Being shocked while in a bubble grants 35% bonus movement speed for 5 seconds. This is a change coupled with the other changes, where it only starts with when players are in combat, and it only starts when you have a direct path to the protection bubble. These holistic changes were basically implemented to make sure that Lightning Storm doesn't slow down.
Si te golpea Lightning Storm estando dentro de la burbuja, te da un premio de 35% de velocidad de movimiento. Guay. Además de eso, si no has entrado en combate, si acabas de entrar a dungeon, no se activa. Por ejemplo, cuando voy de camino al boss, no se activa porque es un coñazo. Y lo segundo, solo se va a activar si el jugador tiene una forma real de llegar a la burbuja.
Mostly focus on some of the more egregious examples where like a traversal is in between you and the bubble and you can't get to it in time, or for some reason it's just a little too far behind you and it's difficult to get to. These will ensure that you know when the lightning storm is going to happen, and you know there is a way to get to the bubble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
¿Y qué pasa cuando jugamos en
party? And finally, Drifting Shade. The duration of the Drifting Shade has decreased from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and
las bolitas que te perseguían, te rozaban y spawneaban y chocaban y creaban un charco. El charco va a pasar de durar 5 segundos a 3 y van a aparecer en lugar de cada, yo que sé, 10 segundos, cada 12.
Circles around the Drifting Shade than they do focusing on completing the dungeon itself. So this should make it a little bit easier for the dungeons for you to be able to navigate the dungeons.
Están metiendo mucha quality online para que el juego sea mucho menos frustrante. Yo por ahora estoy muy contento con este parche.
Yeah, it's great.
Sí, sí, de momento estos son las novedades de temporada. El parche en sí es el día 10.
This is, in addition to Nightmare Dungeons, this is also for our normal dungeons, but we changed some of the objectives for a handful of dungeons.
¡Qué raro!
You will see this in the Nightmare Dungeons.
Los sigilos ya no tienen objetivos dentro, ya no hay que pasar 3 o 4 fases para llegar al boss. Ahora es, encuentra el boss. Subir los sigilos con esto va a ser súper rápido.
You can focus on the critical path. There are dungeon events and other things going on that are optional, but if you want to go in and find the boss, you can just go in and go straight to the boss. So we're trying out this change. We're going to see kind of how it works with the dungeons that we've implemented it on, and we're definitely keeping an eye out on player feedback to see how they like it.
I know Rax, who's watching, has a tear of joy sliding down his face right now after hearing that, I'm sure.
And finally, for the pool of Nightmare Dungeons,
digamos que en el camino directo al boss te van a poner cosas para hacer si quieres, pero no los tienes que hacer. Y los layouts se han rediseñado un montón de mazmorras. Para que no tengas que hacer backtracking, para que no tengas que recorrer zonas. Entonces no quieren que sea una línea recta, pero tampoco les mola la idea de que te metes a la derecha, te metes a la izquierda. El de la izquierda es lo que no quieren. Al revés. El de la izquierda es el que no quiere.
Increase to get to level 100. But as you can see here, here's one of the Nightmare Dungeons that we have for Season 2. In this first objective here, we had our elites that you needed to kill. They were kind of off in the wings, and it created these really bad situations where if you took a wrong turn and then you realized too late that you missed one, you'd have to go all the way back and track that guy down and waste a ton of time. So we moved these objectives to the critical path, so as long as you're just on the main path, on the main loop, you will encounter them, and even if you do make a wrong turn, the penalty for getting back onto the critical path is not that significant, so it's like just less downtime in between reaching these objectives.
Me parece mucho más limpia como lo han dejado. Ya, nosotros ya filtrábamos y elegíamos las dungeons como más limpias, y esto va a hacer que todas las dungeons sean viables. El segundo stream es el 10. No he dicho nada del level de los ítems todavía. Eventos de legión. El tiempo entre eventos pasa de 30 minutos a 25. El tiempo de espera entre que se anuncia el evento que empieza pasa de 5 a 10.
This is great because you do want to go farm these to get the materials you need to go fight Lord Zir, particularly when you're in World Tier 4. So, great opportunities for you to go and do these things.
Esta liga vamos a hacer un montón de Legion Events porque dan acceso a uno de los bosses. Y los World Boss. El tiempo de respawn pasa a ser de 6 horas a 3 y media. El warning, el aviso, va a pasar de 30 minutos a 60. Y además vamos a tener un aviso en mitad de la pantalla que diga en 15 minutos sale el boss. Muy buen parche, muy buenos quality of life.
Nos han escuchado, creo yo.
Tenemos, es que claro, el último logro era sacar 15 World Bosses. Estábamos hablando de que tenías que tirarte como una semana entera con alarma. Vamos a tener muchos más, van a tener el icono, va a tener la alerta, oye, que en 15 minutos sale el World Boss, para que vayas. Ya sería la hostia que dentro del propio juego pudieras pinguearte algún tipo de aviso de va a salir el World Boss. Pero me sirve.
Yeah, likewise, we have increased the warning timer for these bosses from 30 minutes to 60 minutes to really let you know when they're about to start. And go plan to go and hit these because again, these have slightly higher drops for the Lord Zir fight, for example, and they still have good rewards attached to them as well.
Tendrían que haber hecho como en el League of Legends, que te abuelas un momentito y arriba te sale el contador del dragón o del Baron. Y ya está, así de fácil. El boss sale en 2 horas 32 minutos, de puta madre. Pero bueno, me sirve, es una mejora.
So we think that these are going to be some changes that are going to help that quite a bit.
All right. in-game activities.
Yeah, let's go. I can just keep going from here.
Vale. So, ¿qué se puede hacer en game?
In Whisper caches, it used to be when you got into World Tier 3 and you're starting to get.
Vale, cuando haces ahora los susurros del árbol, te van a dar no uno, sino te van a dar los sigilos 5 niveles.
From that World Tier. So now the way it's going to work is when you go and you turn in all your whispers and you get your new summoning materials for Varshan, and you also get a random nightmare sigil on turn-in.
Del nivel más alto que hayas hecho, o sea que tú te haces una 80 y el 100% de las cajas que completas a partir de ahora te dan 80, con lo que si lo rompes te puedes sacar un montón de 50.
Y 85 niveles por debajo.
So I think that's going to be a fun change for players. The next, so I really want to hammer down this.
Luego ganas mucho más oro por hacer susurros.
Greatly increased.
Por hacer contratos.
That's why it's in a different color. We want to very much emphasize greatly.
So if you're looking for gold for your build, whether you're trying to do like a massive respec of your character and you're looking for the chance to reroll many more times on an item to get exactly the
la cosa es que este tipo de mejoras, aparte que lleva tiempo programarlas, si las racionan, tienen con mucho menos trabajo mucho más tiempo de contenido. Claro, si te haces una 100, vas a sacar sigilos de 95 a 100 todo el rato en estas cajas. Y con eso te sustaineas. Ojo, las Helltide, las mareas de sangre, ya daban muy buena experiencia, ¿eh? Ahora mismo era una de las mejores maneras de subir de nivel. Bueno, pues ahora, tanto los susurros como las mareas de sangre van a dar un huevo de experiencia más. La season me va a durar 2 días. Dios mío. Gente, le das a jugar y cuando cierras 6 horas más tarde te termina el diario. Se nos va a hacer cortísimo.
But now that there's also the addition of these summoning materials that you need from these content types, there are also other rewards, and then even gold from Whispers. There's other rewards you're going to be getting at the same time. So while experience from Whispers is really dramatically increased, it'd be really great, particularly on the 1 to 50.
Os recuerdo que todo esto viene acompañado de farmeo dirigido de Uber únicos.
And then, some minor things here. So Whisper caches, we're granting items from the that reward moment that weren't always tied to the item slot associated with the cache. So we've gone through, we've made some changes in the loot side to ensure that won't be the case anymore. So if you go and you open a boots cache, then you're always going to get boots from that cache. So that's going to be a change. That's also,
esto está muy bien. Los susurros, si ahora los pillas de botas, de yermo, de lo que sea, siempre te van a dar el ítem que tú le estás pidiendo y te va a permitir hacer un farmeo totalmente dirigido. Y los cofres de Helltide ahora tienen iconos para enseñar su tipo, lo cual es muy cómodo porque era un coñazo decir, vale, a ver de qué es y tienes que ir, a ver de qué es y tienes que ir. Ahora quiero anillos, abres el mapa y ves dónde están los anillos. Se agradece. Eso nos quita la necesidad de ir abriendo webs externas. Bien, buenos cambios, buenos cambios. Son pequeñitos, pero son buenos, bien dirigidos. Interfaz. Los ítems ahora pueden ser marcados como favoritos o junk en tu stash. Y los favoritos no se venderán o romperán de forma automática. En vez de lo que hacíamos antes, que era marcarlos como basura y romperlos automáticamente, ahora lo hacemos al revés. Marcamos los dos que nos parecen interesantes y se rompe o vende todo lo demás. Mucho más limpio. Mucho más limpio. Esto lo habéis pedido un montón, lo de no puedo marcarlo como que este no se rompa, como en New World. Ahí lo tenéis. A mí me ha pasado un montón de veces de romper un anillo, un amuleto que he visto y he dicho, este es bueno. Igual venía con las expectativas muy bajas, pero estoy muy contento con lo que están enseñando por ahora, las mejoras me gustan mucho.
When you use the sort button in your inventory or in your stash, the aspects that have the
¡ojo! Will now be esto es muy bueno. Aspectos extraídos. Si el poder es el mismo, te los juntamos, te los agrupamos. Cuando tú le digas reordénate solo, te los reagrupan con ítems que tengan el mismo poder.
So when you're looking at the affixes that are listed on an item tooltip, so maybe you have strength and crit chance, something like that. The sorting of those affixes is now consistent within the type of affix that it is. So if you have 2 items that both have strength on them, the strength is going to appear in the same location vertically in the list.
Vale, esto está bien. Esto es sencillamente hacer el juego bien. Si hay varios ítems que tenían resistencias elementales, lo típico que tenemos prefijos y sufijos. Han hecho que a todos los ítems les haga la vida en el mismo sitio, o las resistencias en el mismo sitio, o la armadura en el mismo sitio.
This is one I like. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, thank you. Thank you.
Y luego había una cosa que había un problema y era que cuando tú te ibas a meter a una mazmorra, pero a una dungeon, pero tenía un susurro encima, no te daba ninguna información. Ahora ya te la da. ¿Qué aspecto te da, la descripción, etcétera? Lo que te daría si no tuviera el susurro encima. Si tienen distintos valores también se agrupan. Sí, se va a agrupar por tipología. Has been improved to be more grouped together.
A really cool one. You can now search and filter your stash.
¡Toma!
I think we have video of
¡Uy,
this.
qué rico! Ya lo sabíamos, ya lo dijeron, pero
¡uy,
qué rico!
Filters down there. You can filter by item type, item rarity. You can filter by sacred and ancestral items.
Y el buscador, Dios mío.
You can see there at the bottom
Van a caer pajillas.
So you can search for
puedes incluso filtrarlo por sagrado.
And this searches across all your stash tabs too. So if you take a look at the top there, you can see that the well, it's a little bit hidden by the tooltip right now, but you can see that there are 4 items in this tab that have that fill the criteria and none.
Que cuando ellos pusieran algo que es totalmente obvio, lo celebráramos como si fuera un éxito. Dice uno, por fin sale la beta del juego bien. No sé si llega a beta, ¿eh?
Yeah, another a hotly requested item from players as well. A lot of our UI UX updates in general are, fueled by feedback that we've received either, through social media or on our forums.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have some more.
Modo streamer.
Players that want to hide identifying information, like character names or BattleNet tags, for other players, can now find these settings.
Muchas gracias. Solo llega 6 meses tarde, pero muchas gracias, se agradece. Ya he linkeado el Valder tag varias veces, gracias, se agradece. Llevo casi 200 rechazos, no lo toméis a mal, tengo el inventario de amigos lleno. Esta Season 1.
So vulnerable, dodge, fortified. This is an option that's been added to the menu.
Vale, se puede limpiar la interfaz, todo el tema de vulnerable, dodge, fortify, que son cosas que no te aportan gran cosa saber, se puede esconder, se agradece. Normalmente siempre que muestren las capas de información en momentos muy puntuales, de forma genérica no.
Totally fair, happy to get this out to players. Yeah.
El tema de la gema lo explicarán la semana que viene.
And we've added an auto run feature.
La liamos.
So you can bind a key to auto run. And then you can, the character will run in the direction that they're facing on a controller or the direction that you...
Vale, pero hay un error. No. No os emocionéis. Hay un error, está bien, no pasa nada. No es el autorun que tiene el... Creo que se llama Black Desert, que tú le dices, vete a esta punta del mapa y él va solo. No. Es un dale a la W y que cambie.
See, we have so much stuff and I know... I try to get ahead of myself. And I'm like, let's go to the next section.
This one is important. Antonio was talking about the
muévete para
improvements to Nightmare Dungeons.
Entonces puedes usar la mano izquierda para rascarte las pelotas, mientras la mano derecha está moviendo el ratón, o al revés si eres zurdo.
Zoom level within the app, and this will really help players navigate through towns,
y mejoran el
some areas of the world that
del mapa.
Sort of more dense in terms of terrain and obstructions.
Es como el autocaminar del New World. No es el autocaminar de Black Desert que dices, ve para allá y él solo tira millas.
Yeah, if you're approaching a fork in the overworld, you're not sure which way it leads back to the main trail. Like this is definitely a huge benefit for players.
Y hay muchas zonas donde querías ver mejor el área, pues te permiten hacer más pequeñito al personaje. Se agradece, se agradece. En la Season 3 juegos en manos. En la Season 3 te dan... A ver, en realidad en la Season 1 ya estaba la opción de poner a tu sobrino pequeño a jugar por ti, no tenías que usar el teclado, pero... Cambio las gemas. Las gemas ya no caen como recompensa. Ahora los jugadores van a tener que ganar los fragmentos de gemas de materiales para craftear las gemas. Ya no vamos a farmear gemas. Ahora vamos a farmear un consumible con el que vamos a craftear las gemas.
And rather than having like individual items that go into your inventory, these shards are going to go
si
into
los,
your
si los fragmentos, si los gem shards son como lo han sido en la Season 1, los fragmentos de los viales, los coges de forma automática, no te afecta nada. Es muy cómodo.
So it basically takes all of those gems that have been randomly appearing from completing events and opening chests out of your inventory.
Gracias Blizzard por meter mejoras para que pueda tener la mano izquierda rascándome las pelotas. Se agradece. Os quiero.
And just to make sure people are aware, like, of course, when you do create a gem, it does then appear in your inventory, which then allows you to then, of course, sock it into an item. But now you won't be finding all those gems out in the world that will fill up your inventory. Those will just appear as materials now.
That's right.
Within your materials tabs.
And you'll also be able to salvage those gems that you do.
No van a ocupar sitios, son fragmentos. Es una ocurrencia más.
So, yeah, big changes there. It frees up a lot of inventory space. Feels good. Enchantment cost been updated. What a strange single line,
what
right?
A very general.
So the ultimate thing here that I want to cut to is enchantment cost overall has been reduced. The way that works out is that your initial enchant cost is going to be a little bit higher than it is currently for your first enchant, the first time you do it. And then the progression of the cost of that, of re-enchanting that item, is going to go up much more slowly over time.
Vale, o sea, te va a ser mucho más caro hacer el primer encantamiento, pero luego llegar al 20 es mucho más barato. Digamos que hacer tu primera búsqueda es más caro que actualmente, porque valía nada, valía 2.000 o 3.000. Pero a llegar al número 20 ya no va a escalar como hasta ahora, pagabas 50 millones por un intento. Vale, compro.
Are going to help those defer a lot of those costs for players if you don't end up using a lot of that gold to go and trade and do other things instead. So yeah, big changes there.
Los precios se ajustan al Euribor y a la inflación.
Okay, so another really big change here is that when players get into higher world tiers, I'll read the line and then I'll explain it. So craft materials will drop in place of lower item power, normal magic, and rare equipment in world tiers 3 and 4. What do I mean when I say that? What I mean is when you go into World Tier 3 and you start getting sacred items dropping for monsters, you will find that you will no longer be having normal items dropping for monsters. The only items that will drop for monsters in World Tier 3 will be sacred in nature, they're equipable gear, right? So the instead, when you would have got like a rare item before, you know, that is going to be, you're going to get crafting materials that you can use instead, dropping on the ground if you just go run over and pick up, as opposed to having that rare item in your inventory. Now, this is another one of the reasons why we made this big change to the Whisper Gold increase. We made some other gold increases as well to basically offset any concerns that players might have about needing to sell off all of those typical rare items, you know, as they're progressing through. Now, I will say that if a legendary item drops for you that is of normal quality that you could have got level 50.
Vale, me parece muy interesante. Materiales de crafteo. Pasa una cosa y es que nos tiramos un huevo de tiempo pillando todo lo que toca el suelo para venderlo, romperlo y conseguir realmente tener una pool de materiales para craftear y tal. A priori dice que ya no va a ser necesario, que el drop que ellos querían que nosotros cogiéramos son los legendarios únicos. De modo que va a llegar un momento que los materiales de crafteo que nos caen cuando estamos jugando en Mundo 3 o Mundo 4 van a ser suficientes solo lo que sería ya el material crafteado para que no tengamos que estar cogiendo amarillos todo el rato.
As you continue to play, but you know, for the most part, getting a ton of these items out of your inventory as part of this change.
Yeah, it's this and the gems changes are going to help out a lot with inventory management for players and ensure that they're focusing on like the items that they're really going to want, and then of course getting the benefit of getting all the materials now from the items that.
Cuando te lo han hablado tendrán que arreglar para Season 3. No he entendido la pregunta, Samael.
Yeah, absolutely.
¿De qué hablas?
So, yeah, that's not even
¿de cuánto de lo que nos han enseñado hoy en la Season 3 tendrán que reworkearlo? Tienen un montón de hotfix por delante de la Season 2.
Is when you're starting to go into World Tier 3 and 4, items that are dropping for you are going to get more powerful based on the monster level that you're fighting. Now, this is in response to all the item changes we're making in response to player feedback we've been receiving since preseason and Season 1. Season 2 represents the first really great opportunity that we've had to spend a good amount of time kind of responding to this feedback, getting things tested,
Vale, van a hacer una cosa que tenía mucho sentido que hubiera desde el segundo 0, pero no era así. Y es que si tú te metes en una dungeon con bichos de nivel 150, te van a dropear ítem level 850. O va a ser más común que el ítem level sea más alto. Antes tú buscabas un arma 830 y no tenías ni puta idea dónde buscarla. Ya lo sabemos. Van a hacer que el drop sea progresivo.
You've kind of collected all the ancestral gear that you can get, minus uniques you might still be hunting for, you know, once you get into that tier. But you might have already got all of the gear that you're looking for.
O sea que en Mundo Tier 3 sobre sigilo 19-20 deberías de tener el mejor equipo disponible.
I guess we'll talk about sacred tier first. So, if you fight a level 55 monster, you'll have the typical sacred eye power range when you're fighting that creature.
Esto se traduce en una progresión estable, y si la experiencia va acorde, acabaremos todos haciendo dungeons nivel 100 bien equipados.
The potential output of that item is higher as a result of that, to encourage players to want to go and try to fight higher, more difficult.
Dice, claro, ahora tienes un motivo para intentar ir a niveles más altos, para no quedarte haciendo 30 o 40. Ahora tienes un motivo para intentar apurar todo lo que puedas, porque quedan mejores ítems, con mejores level, con mejores tier, con mejores todo. Esto parece muy obvio. Han tardado meses en hacerlo.
And part of that is ensuring the players have a sense of progress as they go. And when we think about sacred and ancestral progression, when you're getting into that part of the game, one of the things we've wanted to try to ensure is that players do have the time needed to go and kind of gather items of value that they can use to put their build together. You know, but we don't want the player to feel like in an effort to hit that solution, the feeling of not feeling and not getting any real progress past level 70 in this case, if you're getting into your ancestral gear.
Sí, claro, es que tenemos la sensación de que a partir de nivel 70 no tienes un progreso real. No cambias el equipo, no cambias las piezas, no cambias nada, porque no hay motivo, no te cae una cosa que ya es mejor que la que tenía. Y eso es lo que quieren cambiar.
In World Tier 4, starting at level 75, you'll have the typical range, but then that continues to go up by 2, you know, for every monster level above that, so, you know, going up pretty high.
Dice que se mantiene el rango, lo de que los bichos sean un par de niveles por encima de ti, pero que en Tier 4, que los bichos empiezan en el nivel 75, claro, a más nivel de monstruos te encuentres, mejor son los ítems que te dropean.
The minimum range of the item output goes up by 1 for every monster level from that point forward. So you'll get to a point where you're fighting level 150 creatures and such that the eye power range of that item, 175 monsters and such, the eye power ranges of those items are effectively on par. Like they are, it's like 920 to 920.
El nuevo tope del juego es
920, ¿ha dicho?
Yeah, you see, start to shrink down that window.
Ha dicho que podemos conseguir E-level 920
in the world and in Nightmare Dungeons and other content types, like it's much more likely to get the maxed out eye power rolls that you're looking for. Now, one change we didn't make as part of this is we didn't change the ranges on affixes that are attached to these. So the change that we're talking about here is getting you more weapon damage on your weapons, more armor value on your armor pieces, and more of the inherent.
Sí, claro. No hemos cambiado los rangos que ya existen. Lo que hemos hecho ha sido en los rangos más altos meterle números más altos, más armadura, más daño al arma, más todo. Básicamente nos acaban de meter esa línea, es un power creep de la puta hostia.
We want that. We think that's fun, right? But that's not. We want to make sure that other content pieces also provide the opportunity for meaningful rewards as well. So one other change that we made here for Whispers, for example, is that the caches that you get at the end of a Whisper turn-in, the rewards for that are actually 10 eye power better, which should say that they're 5 monster levels higher than what you would normally get, because usually rewards that you get from
quieren que las hagamos, ni Dios debe estar haciendo susurros.
Level, the moment that you turn these things in, you know, based on the world tier that you're in. Now there's an offset, so you get additional.
Si no cambia cómo funcionan los tiers de los ítems, no hay cambio relevante. A ver, a priori lo pretenden hacer. Pero es que fíjate que ahora los susurros van a soltar ítems con más 20 item power.
Those are going to give you 20 eye power above what your level is set on. Meaning these end up being compelling ways for players to want to go and try to collect rewards from engaging with these systems. Again, while they're earning tons of gold.
Depende de cuál sea el nivel que le asigne el caché. Si es el tuyo, si yo he hecho las misiones, estoy sacando ítems de bichos de nivel 97.
Caches also benefit from this same change in that all Helltide caches starting right in World Tier 3 have a 20 eye power offset.
Hostia, se acabó, ya está. No, se acabó. Me da igual todo lo demás, se acabó. Tú llegas a nivel 95-100 y el 100% del drop de las cajas va a ser 95-100 más 20 de E-level.
Only that these changes allow these cache systems to
Hostia, pero si esto se traduce en lo que parece que se traduce, la caja de 175 de María de Sangre que te va a dropear,
920 for ancestral.
ítems de 920.
Because I know there's a lot of people asking 820, 920, so.
So yeah, we think that these are going to be some good changes for players to feel they're getting some of those upgrades as they play through those content tiers in World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. They have a smoother journey as they continue to level up their characters. This mixed with like the experience point changes and a lot of the Nightmare Dungeon stuff that we talked about so far, you know, represents a big, basically us trying to respond to like our experiences playing again and then the feedback from players.
You know, I'm gonna like go back to 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago when we were talking about the 5 bosses and being able to progress through them. You know, one thing that we talked about Uber Duriel and how...
Esta es la sesión de matar a todo el mundo, ¿eh? De paseo, de pisarle la cabeza.
Exactly. Uber Duriel. But with all these new bosses, because they all have their own loot tables and everything associated with them, at least with Duriel, because that in itself is a level 100 boss. So what type of like kind of item power can you expect to find off of like Duriel?
Yeah, you'll find iPower 920 stuff off Duriel. So there are unique items that Duriel drops that are only some of them are very new and coming in with Season 2 that only come from Duriel that are just really powerful, right?
Duriel tiene drop de ítems únicos que solo suelta Duriel, que son específicos nuevos de la Season 2.
There is a tighter range versus like relative to other bosses and other things. And generally, unique items that drop from these bosses they're not going to roll the full like 75 iPower range. You know, they're much tighter across the board as you kind of step up into the more powerful bosses. You know, so I think the iPower range for Duriel, the iPower range for Duriel is much smaller than 75. I don't remember exactly what the range is specifically for that number. But that is increased. But the uber unique items drop from, they have a chance to drop, a low chance to drop, but they'll certainly drop. From Duriel, those are always rolled at cap. So they're always rolled at the highest iPower possible. And all of the affixes on the Uber Unique also always roll at the highest values possible. So when you get an Uber Unique item, there's not a better version of that specific Uber Unique item that you can get. That's always the very best one.
Yeah, so if you're
Ojo, porque acaba de decir que los super únicos ahora son ancestrales primigenios.
Nice.
Caen con roles perfectos.
Well, I know we just went through a slew of changes and updates coming to the game. And again, like to reiterate, we still actually have more to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't talk about classes.
Pero no paran de importar cosas de Diablo.
We didn't talk about unique item changes.
We didn't talk about the damage buckets.
And I will note, like, unique item changes, like I said before, like pretty much almost all unique items, or nearly all unique items, are getting some sort of update, which we will talk about on October 10th. I know a lot of people have asked for Mr. Adam Jackson to reappear, and he will be back on October 10th to talk about all the different class changes that are coming. And
he has been summoned.
He has been summoned. He's on vacation.
He's on vacation.
We got the materials.
He's watching, though.
We got the materials to summon.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're also going to be talking about you know, the resistance changes and stuff that we've been talking about already today, and how it's going to be much more valuable for people to be ensuring that they have it on like rings and all those other items.
Well, and there are changes to the we're getting into it, but there are changes to the way that it works. So. Like, you know, folks at home might be saying like, oh, that like there's a resistance boss, but like with the current resistance system, how is that going to work? And the 1010 stream is really going to explain it.
El día 10 nos van a dar todos los detalles de los cambios a mecánicas que han hecho con el tema de las resistencias.
On the 1010 stream, we will even be talking about the first update that will be coming even after Season 2 launches.
Y la Season 2 sale el 17, pero el parche sale antes, y lo vamos a ver antes. Julio, gracias por el Prime.
Launches will of course have additional updates.
Yo tengo ganas.
In the season.
Este stream me ha gustado mucho.
Be adding new things, new ways of being able
Llevamos
to
una hora y media y todavía queda mandaca por
new
contar.
Features that players have been asking for. So we'll be actually showcasing what 1-1 will be in that October 10th stream as well. So people will get an early look of what the first update post Season 2 launch will be. And of course, we have a lot more to even talk about at BlizzCon. So if you are going to be at BlizzCon, make sure to check it out. Of course, we'll be streaming, and there'll be more information about, I know, the BlizzCon collection items and everything that will be available for players to be able to partake in. That will have you know, items within Diablo 4, and of course items from other games that are going to be featured at BlizzCon, like World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and all the others. So.
But most importantly, at BlizzCon, you can bug Adam in person.
Yes, you can bug all of us in person at BlizzCon. So make sure to, if you are going to be coming to Anaheim, to check it out. And if you're interested in coming, of course, you can grab a ticket to BlizzCon, which is in early November. So. Be good. First weekend in November, Friday and Saturday. All right. One other thing that we did want to talk about is there's some changes that are coming in regards to Smoldering Ashes. for the free tier of the Battle Pass, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from players, and this kind of ties back to the experience items that we were talking about, where the tiers of the Smoldering Ashes were pretty deep in, and you know, you would already be like a higher level and everything like that. And I know one of the big changes that we're doing is the character level requirements for those specific tiers with Smoldering Ashes have been reduced. So players will now actually run into those Smoldering Ashes and be able to use them. And they will automatically unlock now, which is really nice. Earlier within the actual Battle Pass as they're playing through, which is
so if you happen to like miss one when you're leveling up, which I think happened to a lot of players, certainly happened to me. It's like it's now when you go back to the when you go and you actually open up the Battle Pass, you'll see that you've already unlocked those Smoldering Ashes. You can go right and spend those in your season blessings and benefit from them right away.
On new season blessings, yes, there are 3 new season blessings for season 2 that will be part of the new Battle Pass, of course. And of course, one other thing with the Battle Pass is there is going to be new town portal skins that will be unlocked and available for players as well. So of course, you can now change from blue town portal to different color town portal if you'd like, and there will be other town portal skins available in the Battle Pass.
Skins de portal, algunas de ellas incluso en el pase de batalla. El pase de batalla enfocado a la sangre.
With your new town
and again,
portal.
The free track.
Exactly. Imperious, Inaria, sorry.
Well, any of the angels.
Technically, it would be more orange, I would say, if it was Imperious to match.
Están copiando muchas cosas de Path of Exile, que es bien, está bien enfocado.
Love Here's the Storm.
I've got Imperious on my mind right now. Well, we do actually have one other big news thing that we did want to actually talk about today as well, which is we are bringing more Diablo 4 players into the world, because we're here to announce that Diablo 4 is actually going to be launching on Steam with the launch of Season 2.
¡Ojo!
So on October 17th,
con el lanzamiento de la Season 2 se abre Diablo 4 también en Steam, igual que Overwatch.
Steam, of course, is
y ahora vas a poder saber cuántas horas jugadas.
Elements as,
lo que significa que si el juego está en Steam y no tienen que acceder desde el launcher de Blizzard, esperan que haya muchos más jugadores. ¿Sabéis lo que no hay para jugar con esos jugadores? Herramientas sociales.
And so if you have friends on Battle.net and they prefer to play on Steam, they can of course play together from both sides, which is awesome to see. So wishlist.
A ver, que sí que esos son, pero no tenemos herramientas sociales, cabrón.
Diablo 4. Coming on Steam, it's really nice if you have a Steam Deck. It's another option of being able to play Diablo 4, because you can now take it like on the road with you, which is really good to see.
So, sure.
Yeah, lots of
Sanctuary on the go.
Ramón, han hecho cambios muy bestias a monturas, a estas, a muchas cosas. Han arreglado muchos errores, sobre todo muchísima más experiencia, un escalado mucho más natural y level 920 para los ítems.
Xbox and PlayStation users from that end. But I'm really impressed, by the way, that we got through a lot of content here in a pretty efficient manner.
So fast.
We actually are going to go through some Q&A
13.000 espectadores,
from everyone in
Una
Twitch
presentación de Season con 13.000
espectadores. You're in Twitch chat, feel free to ask a question. We'll try to grab as many questions as possible. Use my trusty iPad and ask the questions, and of course call out people's names and attempt to pronounce them correctly. But I know we will start off with one first question here as
¿En serio tiene más espectadores el restream de Queen que el original? Hostia, no sé cómo tomarme esto.
Yeah. So we've obviously got a ton of feedback about the feeling of earning rewards in Diablo 4 and the feeling of like the power of those items and how interesting they are and how easy they are to compare and what the path towards getting like perfect items feels like and really what players are meant to do once they reach like that threshold of the game where they're trying to like fully like perfect their build. We have a lot of ideas of things we want to add on the itemization side in Diablo 4. The sorts of things I talked about earlier in the item section, like those really are just like some first small steps of the sorts of things we want to do. But we're reading through all this feedback. We have all like really interesting ideas and designs that we're working on the side. We're excited to be able to bring those things to you over time. And we'll be talking about more of them in the future. But yeah, we have big plans for itemization for Diablo 4.
Yeah, I mean, really the themes here are more endgame stuff and improvements to itemization.
Yeah.
All right. Quick question here from Cursed47. It's great to improve mounts, but what will you do to fix and address open world items? Teleporting from Nightmare Dungeon to Nightmare Dungeon sometimes isn't very fun and wasn't the best way to fix the time issue. Is there more plans for open world elements? Using mounts sometimes doesn't feel like it matters after a certain point.
Yeah, I'm not sure what is being asked there.
They're asking if there's going to be like some more plans for some like open world content or anything that will be on the open world. And I think a lot of this ties back to some of the stuff that you're actually seeing in Seasons, because Seasons actually ends up adding a lot more content to the open world, even with Season 2, with us being able to add additional objectives and everything for players to actually grab.
There are. We want to have a mix of gameplay that occurs in dungeons, which is, core Diablo gameplay, and gameplay that's occurring in the open world. And so with Season 2, you see things like the
Blood Harvest.
The new Blood Harvest, exactly. And some of the changes like the monsters being on level with you in open world, and the changes that Joe talked about with item power based on monster power.
Yeah, in addition to that, making sure that the various activities we have in Diablo 4 feel more rewarding to engage in on their own. One component of that being to go and challenge Duriel as well for those uber unique opportunities. Like, these represent, I think, good steps forward to kind of make these content feel more compelling in general. But as we continue to march forward and we're looking at, we showed the content chart earlier with like all of the bosses and the way that we're sort of thinking about various parts of the end game experience. There's a lot of room there for us to continue to create more distinct activities that appeal to different kinds of players, and also just continue to bring out like various kind of parts of Sanctuary to make things more fun and engaging for players. So this really is, again, like just the first step of the sorts of things we want to continue to add and inject into Diablo 4 over time, right? And adding more content to the overworld is a part of that. Particularly like, content that has like high monster density and is like fun to go engage with and slaughter monsters in.
Bueno, muchas gracias por ese Prime. ¿Nos da la sensación de que después de todo lo que hemos visto, la mecánica de Season es como lo menos importante? Y hoy era el stream de presentación de Season, ¿eh? Me da la sensación de que me falta un montón de información sobre la Season. Hemos tenido mucha información guay, pero como que la Season se diluye en todo lo demás.
That sounds really sad, actually.
Wheels, that's pretty cool.
I guess if it has wheels.
Yeah.
Sure.
Bueno, esta Season estaba diseñada.
Okay, I guess Adam likes taking legs off puppies, but weird takes.
Is there any chance of the level cap being removed off of Paragon glyphs?
Yeah. Joe, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So so we have talked before quite a bit about how we look at power progression in Diablo 4. Particularly, we talked a lot more about this like before launch, and a little bit before Season 1. But Diablo 4 is designed with the idea of kind of cap power progression sort of in mind. We want to make sure that we find the right ways for players to continue to grow the power of their characters.
Dice que quieren encontrar una forma correcta de hacer que el personaje aumente su poder, que no es sencillamente sumar más Paragon.
We want to find more ways for them to do that feel in ways that feel compelling and are fun, and don't feel like this extra task work they have to do in order to like.
Que no se note como un trabajo adicional, un grindeo básicamente.
I think if I think about the reasoning behind that question, I think part of it comes down to. We talk about cap power progression, which has good reasons, like you're talking about, but also players are saying like, well, I ran out of stuff to do. Can there be more stuff to do, right? And so,
claro, que los jugadores piensan, vale, ya lo he hecho todo, ¿y ahora qué?
Increasing the Paragon glyph cap could be one way to do that. The way we're doing it in Season 2 is through all of the endgame boss summoning mechanics.
Dice que la Season 2 se va a centrar en temas mecánicas y en game bosses, pero que una de las cosas que están barajando es aumentar, no deslimitarlo, sino aumentar el cap de Paragon a lo mejor a, yo que sé, 150.
Yes, at endgame progress. Yes, yeah, that's a much better way to say it.
No, yeah, but I think that it's all fair, right? I think that there's room here for us to continue to add more of that, add more to that experience, particularly as the players low 100.
Yeah.
I look forward to more of those. Updates as we continue to kind of march along.
Yeah.
Mavastra says, could we have a Paragon board reset button? Or be able to buy it?
Vale, pregunta muy básica. ¿Un puto botón para resetear el Paragon board?
Won't talk about anything today, but
We'll look into it.
Yeah, wink. What an interesting idea. What an interesting idea.
¿Cómo que one infinite? Pero cabrón.
Next question that we have is from...
No lo han contestado. Que lo han estado pensando, pero que lo dejan ahí en el aire.
DEYV. Question about Uber Uniques. Is there a chance for you guys to improve Uber Unique stats?
So Uber Uniques are going to be one of those things that are going to get discussed, I think, a little bit more next week when Adam is on talking about the content changes for classes and the various like item bucket changes and things, or the affix and skill bucket changes they've made. So I think that's a good question for that group to answer as part of that conversation. But I suspect that there are opportunities for us to make some improvements. Particularly with some,
¿alguna posibilidad de coger los superúnicos y mejorar los atributos? Dice, es muy probable que sí.
Lafrite says, is the stash search usable for legendary powers and affixes?
Yes.
Yes, you can search through those. So it just
se va a poder usar el buscador del filtro del stash para escribir quiero este poder. Y ha dicho que sí. Que el filtro busca poderes.
Nelix87 says, are there any plans to give clans some love? Currently, clan management is very limited. Clan leaders and their officers has very minimal tools to track anything related to the clan. Are there like maybe plans for like clan stashes or
clan? ¿Estás de clan algo para poder darle más herramientas a los líderes de clan o al propio clan?
Social options and in particular clan management tools. More cool things for clans to do together, and that's something that we'll have more to share on in the future.
Sí, en el futuro, si quieres, lo hablamos. Venga, campeón, a por un helado.
More coins in the battle pass instead of 666. And I know that there is a change this season for the battle pass because there was a lot of.
El season pass nos da 666 platinos.
Platinum.
¿Hay alguna posibilidad que nos dé más?
Actually, end up using that platinum to be able to grab something from the shop. You will be able to use platinum. From the battle pass this season, because there's going to be options now that will meet that specific amount. So players will have some options available to them from that.
Y dice que sí, que van a buscar la manera de que con el platino de eso podamos comprar algo, porque con eso no daba para comprar nada.
Look, I pronounced it right. How many? Proud of myself. How many uniques will you add every season? Any news on set items?
Vale. ¿Cuántos únicos vas a añadir por season?
So in terms of
¿Y algo sobre sets?
We're adding every season. We've been sticking to around 6 so far. There are more than 6 as part of season 2.
Normalmente se meten unos 6 únicos por season. En la 2 se han columpiado y han metido más.
But yeah, I think there's more than, I think there's like 12 uniques in season 2.
En season 2, por ejemplo, meten 12, pero la idea es meter 6 por season.
We'll evaluate these counts as we go, but now that there's ways for players to farm these things, we're excited about trying to find more opportunities to inject some of them. But we also want to continue to add new legendary aspects as well, and more ways to kind of like create that build.
Van a meter también no solo únicos, sino también legendarios.
Like World Tier 3, right?
Yeah, and in general, season 2 is represented. Like,
y va a haber un escalado, va a haber ítems de antes de World Tier 3 e ítems de 4.
Question from Fletchy. Good name. Good name, not biased at all. How is Duriel going to compare to Echo of Lilith regarding difficulty?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So, Echo of Lilith is our pinnacle challenge boss. She is very difficult.
Es lo más difícil que hay ahora mismo.
To make her a little bit easier for players of different builds to take down, which I think you've seen some of those changes even during the course of Season 1. But in Season 2, Duriel is designed not to be at that same level of difficulty. He is a little bit easier because you can use all the materials.
Duriel es más fácil. Duriel es el otro pina que el boss.
Right, so like we want to make sure that
es más fácil que Lilith.
And you know the fight really well, and you've got the proper amount of poison resist, which I recommend. That's going to be a little bit easier.
Es 100% a poison, o te pone poison resist o te va a costar.
The hard mechanical challenge that Lilith poses kind of separately. So Duriel is going to be less difficult overall to overcome than Uber Lilith in this way.
Y Duriel va a ser más fácil que Uber Lilith, pero te va a forzar a que te ponga resistencia al veneno.
One here because I think they're pretty similar in terms of, or at least we can talk about them both together. Team Loose Leaf asks, will the 5 new bosses you target farm be a permanent addition after season 2? Don't answer that yet. Oh, you already did. But we can go to Thanks, Joe.
You have to say it before.
I did. I was going to combine two. And then now I can't even find the other question, but it was related to. Oh, here it is. Fat Teppy says, "Do you guys have any plans for Eternal Realm content, something permanent that isn't just seasonal?" Which I do want to note because Joe just mentioned. Yes, the boss.
¿Alguna intención de que algo de este contenido no sea seasonal y se quede en el mundo eterno? Y están diciendo que sí. Que por ejemplo los bosses legendarios y cosas varias se van a quedar en ambos sitios. El sistema de hacer el farmeo específico y dirigido también se va a quedar en el mundo eterno. O sea, hay cosas que aunque entre con la Season 2 se van a quedar en el core.
Yeah. You know, when we talk about, like, when we showed the chart of the content types before, and, oh wow, it's already ready, already prompted. When we showed these things out before, once again, as a reminder, there's a lot of space in here for players in Eternal Realm and in Seasons to go and engage with different kinds of content at different points in progression. So we are excited about trying to provide more of those opportunities as we kind of continue on in development for Diablo 4. It's part of making the game better, is making sure that it's more fun at those stages, particularly World Tiers 3 and especially World Tier 4.
Yeah.
Question from Ice Gammon. Have you guys given thought to being able to craft specific nightmare dungeon keys rather than crafting over and over to get a specific dungeon?
Yes. We are still kind of talking about
Quiero farmear una dungeon en específico. ¿Hay alguna posibilidad que pueda farmearme el sigilo que me salga las narices?
Most fun for them. So we're in constant conversations and we're looking at gameplay and analytics and also just general player feedback. And we're taking all of these things into account. So it is one of the things that we're thinking about.
Lo están pensando, pero no lo soluciona de ninguna manera por ahora.
Digital Wizard 91 regarding endgame boss mechanics. Is there any visual improvements to the readability of their attacks compared to, like, you know, other bosses or other encounters that we've had?
Chucrutín, gracias por la sub.
There have been.
Yeah, I think I know we showed, like, really brief.
We showed some of the stuff on traps, right? But there are other visual improvements.
Yeah, and, like, we even showed, like, even
no habrá nuevas habilidades en cada clase.
Intros as they're kind of coming in. Right. But, like, you can, at least with Gregor, like, you can kind of see some of his mechanics.
Y no habrá botón de reset para comprar ahora.
Regarding the tiles, and you can
una pregunta ha sido, cuando nos enfrentemos a un nuevo boss de endgame, ¿vamos a poder ver sus ataques de alguna manera? ¿Algún tipo de plantillas? ¿Algo bien hecho?
BR Bulbul. Are you going to be able to save builds to a wardrobe like Diablo 3 potentially in the future?
Oh, builds, yeah, like you can with transmogs right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that we'd like to add in the future.
And
then you said that on stream before, actually.
Yeah, it continues to be true.
Yeah, it continues to be true.
Has not changed. Is there any plans for this from Intrepid Gamer? Are there any plans for, like, adding a trade interface where players aren't having to actually use like other third-party tools, like going over Discord or something like that to potentially find opportunities to find, you know, other users that might have that.
Yeah, there's some light functionality baked into trade chat right now, but I think we're really, as part of the season, like with the material trains can be available for players to use to summon bosses. I think we're starting to see players begin to stress the systems that we have, and based on their feedback, it's going to advise a lot of how we want to, like, think about trading in the future for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
So that's going to tell us about, like, UI UX enhancements we want to make and just general, like, improvements to the, like, the kinds of things you can trade, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Arcadium OW says, previously the idea of permanently upgrading our Codex of Power with extracted aspects was discussed. Are you guys still interested or looking into this?
We want to make the Codex of Power better in ways.
Tema del Codex. ¿Hay alguna posibilidad de mejorar los aspectos del códex para que de alguna manera podamos upgradear los aspectos que tiene el códex y que el códex nos ayude a mejorar nuestra vida? Que lo están valorando.
Which we've already talked about. That is actually a
coming in season 3.
Season 3 feature. So leaderboards are most definitely coming, and those will be available in season 3.
Hasta la season 3 no llegan los ladderboard. La season 2 no tiene ladderboard.
Is there any source use of it in Steam if I bought it before? don't need to buy the game again on Steam. It's your choice if you prefer to play on
Si
Steam.
quiero jugar en Steam, tengo que volver a recomprar el juego, porque por ejemplo
en play it on Steam. But if you already have the game, of course you have the option of playing it on the other platforms, specifically from that.
Por ejemplo, en consolas sí que había que recomprarlo. Si no, si te quieres ir del launcher de Blizzard de Steam, no tienes que recomprarlo.
Starting with Season 2 on October 17th, when the game becomes available.
Y entonces de Steam tenés amigos para jugar y wispearle.
Trying to think here. I've now lost track of where I was because I was going down a list. Legless Puppy again has another question. Diablo, or at Diablo, is there any changes planned for glyph experience cap, removing or increasing the level cap on glyphs? Will give us more reasons to run Nightmare Dungeons on
Sigilos.
Yeah, I kind of answered this a little bit before. So we are looking at ways to make sure that players feel like they've got good progression opportunities once they reach like level 100.
Una que tengo mis sigilos a nivel 21 no tiene sentido seguir haciendo sigilos. ¿Alguna intención de quitar ese límite?
But we are definitely aware of the interest in that particular solution, for example.
Estamos interesados en estudiarlo.
The changes in Season 2 that relate to leveling up to 100. And a natural consequence.
En la Season 2 nos estamos centrando en cómo hacer que de forma orgánica, natural y buena los jugadores lleguen a nivel 100. Todo lo que los rodea, los sigilos, será tratado más adelante.
Says, can Duriel drop 920 item power rare items or just Uber uniques?
No, the items that drop from Uber Duriel at that stage are not going to always be, like the rare items won't always be 920 eye power. They're going to follow the same range as if it's were a level 100 monster. So there's still a 75 eye power swing on the rare items.
¿Duriel me dropearía ítems y level 920 amarillos o solo legendarios superúnicos?
The unique items obviously will have a much tighter range than 75 eye power swing of rare items.
Dice que no, que Duriel tiene el mismo drop que cualquier bicho nivel 100.
But rare items, no, they will still have they'll still have a range. If you want to get tighter range on rare items, then you can maybe potentially think about going and hitting Nightmare Dungeons of a higher eye power range.
Si quieres farmear amarillos y level 920, la zona para hacerlo dirigida sería sigilos nivel 100.
With every new monster level that you fight.
Nos están dando una forma muy dirigida de farmear. Jugaría muchas veces por eso.
I'll just acknowledge that being able to filter your loot is part of ARPG that many players enjoy, and we have heard that feedback, and it's something that we're exploring right now.
And then, let's see, there is a question from Misfit Dio, which is, will Nightmare Sigils rotate within the season, or will it be the same dungeons for the whole season?
It's going to remain the same set of dungeons for the season in the current format. You know, we can talk about what rotating them more frequently would feel like. It would mean invalidating keys.
Todas las seasons van a ser las mismas 30 dungeons, sí. Por ahora, la rotación va a ser de season en season, no en mitad de season. Dice que sí, que por ahora todas las seasons son las mismas 25 dungeons.
Actually, you know what? I know it's a question that a lot of people are talking about, which is stash tabs. And because obviously we have changes here for Season 2 that address a lot of inventory related concerns. Are there any plans for additional stash tabs in the future? Or anything to discuss today?
I don't have any announcements on additional stash tabs, but what I can say is that we recognize that there continues to be a need, and that there will continue to be a need for more improvements.
Entendemos que necesitáis más pestañas de alijo, entendemos que es un problema y por ahora no lo vamos a resolver. Vamos a ver cómo lo solucionamos, pero por ahora coged 2 piedras y al tobillico.
Awesome. So took a bunch of questions here, and you know, we went through all the Season 2, Season of Blood changes, or new Season of Blood mechanics that are going to be coming for players on October 17th. Again, Season 1, which is Season of the Malignant, actually ends on October 17th. And Season 2 starts also on October 17th. All the dates
¿Cierran la Season 1 el 17 y empiezan la Season 2 el 17?
That will be live immediately after this live stream. I will note that the plan is for Season 2 to actually start at 10 a.m. Pacific on the 17th. If you guys want to like pre-plan schedules or anything like that, you have that ability of being able to do so now. So we will actually be back here again for a Campfire chat on October 10th with Mr. Adam Jackson, who will be going over all the class changes, class balance changes, class updates, as again the resistance.
Por Maro, igual no nos hemos explicado bien. Agrupar no significa stackear,
updates for vulnerable, overpower, and critical strike damage updates that are coming, plus unique item updates that we are going to be covering off. Of course, we'll have a Q&A associated with that. So there's a lot to talk about on the 10th as well. And I will note that we do plan on having patch notes available on the 10th immediately after that stream, so people can read through what is currently 41 pages of patch notes for people to kind of sort through and read through all the changes that will be coming within the game. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Again, Season 2 is October 17th, and again, Diablo 4 will now be available on Steam. You can wishlist that now, and it will be available with Season 2 when it arrives. So we have a lot to talk about on the 10th, and to talk about 121 on the 10th as well. Sorry, forgot about that. Our future plans with Season 2, and of course, more to talk at BlizzCon. So thank you guys again from the whole Diablo 4 team here at Blizzard. Appreciate you guys joining in, and we'll see you next week for the October 10th stream.
Thank you for playing.
Hasta luego, bro. Vale, no sé si os habéis dado cuenta de una pequeña cosa, y es que la season viene, si no me fallan los números, en el 17 de octubre, y el 3 de noviembre tenemos la BlizzCon, lo que significa que vamos a tener, si no me equivoco, en la segunda semana de esto, míralo, el 3 y el 4 de noviembre, en la segunda semana de season es la BlizzCon. No es un momento muy cojonudo ni para anunciar la siguiente season, porque es demasiado pronto. Como no os presenten un DLC o alguna cosa así, no da tiempo es demasiado cerca de la salida. Tengo curiosidad por saber cómo lo van a gestionar, porque me da la sensación de que no. Y por cierto, esta vez no estoy encontrando ninguna posibilidad de una especie de entrada virtual. O ponen todo directamente en abierto, lo cual estaría correcto, o no lo he encontrado. No encontré ningún tipo de entradas. Las únicas entradas que veo por aquí son entradas, como podéis ver, en persona, presenciales. Sí, sería lo suyo que presentaran, es un poco pronto quizá, pero sería lo suyo que presentaran ya algún tipo de DLC. No sé si personaje, no sé si zona, no sé exactamente qué, pero DLC. Ya tocaría que dijeran algo. ¿Cómo quedáis, gente? ¿Algo que comentar? ¿Algo que decir? ¿Alguna reflexión respecto a lo que acabamos de ver? Soy todo oídos.
Se nota que han escuchado a la comunidad, han implementado lo que han podido, lo que no puede ser, en el momento no puede ser, pero nada, seguimos con el mismo problema. A mí me parece que se basa todo en llegar a nivel 100, pero una vez que llegas a nivel 100 no hay endgame realmente.
A ver, tenemos, para cuando lleguemos, lo han puesto un montón de veces el diagrama, esto. Aquí tienes el diagrama. Esto es básicamente lo que nos han dicho que vamos a tener. Entonces la pregunta sería, han hecho que sea mucho más deprisa llegar a nivel 100. Vale, soy nivel 100.
Un 40% más rápido mucho.
Soy nivel 100. Tengo mis sigilos subidos. Tengo mi equipo de, yo que sé, lo que me dé la gana. Tengo mi druida de tornados montado. Y he conseguido matar a Overlord y he completado el diario de temporada. ¿Y ahora qué? Lo único que puedes usar... O sea, tengo la sensación de que el poquito contenido que hay en Endgame es única y exclusivamente destinado a que llegues a nivel 100. Pero una vez que llegas a nivel 100, ¿qué? ¿Comprendéis?
Ya pones tu tótem y ya está.
Aguanta, Nicro, aguanta. Si tengo a Borichi listo para ir a mirarlo, tengo la Mastermind lista también. Es mejor ir por Borichi primero o la Mastermind. Depende de lo que tú necesites. Puedes hacer que Borichi sea de tier 4.
Voy al baño ahora, vengo mientras habláis.
La Mastermind lo desarma. Si no es líder, ve primero por Borichi. Papetín, muchas gracias por ese Prime. ¿Qué endgame tiene Diablo 2? Pues en realidad ninguno. Pero si me estás comprando un juego de hace 23 años con este, mal vamos. Diablo 2 tiene rejugar una y otra vez los personajes o PvP.
Diablo 2 era en su momento de esos juegos que jugabas y cuando terminaban la historia y todo, ibas y jugabas otro juego.
Kitiara, pásame por favor el mensaje y a ser posible con los enlaces y todo, le echo un vistazo. Y el enlace donde haya sacado eso lo agradecería enormemente. Gracias. ¿Habrá nuevos eventos semanales? Por ahora no. Ahora habrá que matar a los jefes finales entre 71 y 100 y listo. ¡Oli, Taco! Anuncia algo guay. Anuncia muchas cosas guay. Muchos quality life. Se agradece. Vale, ya termina el anuncio. Hola, gente. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estáis? ¿Hablamos o qué? Ya hicieron una bajada de precio no hace mucho. Han hablado de muchas cosas que creo que son interesantes. De muchos cambios que son un quality life muy bestia. Pero, tal y como lo han organizado, tiene toda la pinta de que una vez que tocas nivel 100, con lo cual completas el diario de temporada y el pase de batalla, que va a ser, yo creo que en una semanita, ¿después qué? No, es que me apetece farmear O sea, le pasa lo mismo que le está pasando a Last Epoch. Has conseguido el personaje, lo tienes montado, pero no tienes dónde usarlo. Entonces el recorrido hasta llegar a tener el personaje montado mola, pero una vez que lo tienes montado no tienes en qué usarlo. No hay ranking. No hay nada que te motive a mejorar el equipo a 920. Imaginad que con el equipo 850, 870 ya matáis a Uberlily o a Duriel. ¿Para qué más? Que habéis farmeado a Duriel un par de veces y habéis sacado un par de Uber únicos. ¿Para qué más? Quiero decir, no hay motivo en usarlo. No tenéis dónde gastarlo. En ese sentido tengo la sensación de que al juego le falta algún sitio donde gastar todo esto, o que el diario de batalla sea lo suficientemente grande para retenernos el tiempo suficiente. Si todo esto tuviera objetivo, no te digo que me pongas mátame 65 bosses de mundo, pero alguna cosa diferente. Dijeron que sacarían la de sí en enero. Maxeas tu PJ, completas todo, dropeas la temporada, no debes... Pero es que en ese sentido estamos hablando de que la season, con las mejoras que le han hecho ahora, la season aproximadamente puede ser que sea de... ¿Cuánto? ¿Cuánto puede durar la season en ese sentido? ¿Una semana? ¿Dos semanas? Venga, va. Me he hecho mi necro. En 2 semanas me lo he subido al 100. Me he equipado todo. He matado a todos los bosses de endgame. Y he completado el diario y el pase de batalla. Hasta dentro de 2 meses y medio. O sea, si son 12 semanas de season, solo va a durar 2 semanas. Más que nada porque no tienes en qué usarlo. Ahí está la cosa.
De los rápidos me llaman.
No sé, he hecho en falta alguna cosilla más. Muchas gracias, Kitiara. Ya lo tengo. 2 semanas para el que juegues esos 7 horas al día, ¿no? A ver, no creo que haga falta jugar tantas horas al día, pero sí, tiene pinta de que va a ser... Yo qué sé... 50, 100 horas al diario. Poder subir más personajes y probar más cosas, ¿no? Pero... A ver cómo te lo explico. Yo ya he jugado con el Necro y he jugado todas las builds que existen del Necro ahora mismo. He jugado con el Druid y he jugado todas las builds que existen del Druid ahora mismo. Y he jugado con el Mago y he jugado todas las builds que existen del Mago ahora mismo. Lo único que me queda ahora mismo es el Bárbaro y el Rogue. Cuando me los haya pasado los dos con todas las builds que existen, no, este juego no tiene rejugabilidad. ¿Para qué me voy a subir otro personaje? ¿Para volver a jugar la misma build que ya he jugado? ¿Comprendes? No tiene ni suficiente variedad como para que me apetezca resubirme otra cosa, ni nada que hacer con esa variedad. Ya subieron las temáticas de la siguiente temporada. Nos han estado contando un poquito en qué consiste. De hecho está por aquí. Tiene muy buena pinta, tengo que decirlo. Pero me ha hecho más ilusión lo que nos han comentado del parche que luego a la hora de la verdad cuando llegue en game. O sea, lo que es el recorrido A me parece muy guay. El jugarlo ya me parece corto. La parte, digamos, en game me parece que le sigue faltando. Esperar un poquito más. Aún así nos ha metido un nuevo modo de endgame, que eso también está bien.
Season 2 will be our biggest update to Diablo 4 since launch. With a new quest line, events to play as you drive back the vampiric horde, unholy vampiric powers to wield, and new endgame encounters to test your skills.
And players will need to harness the enemy's own blood magic against them to end this new evil before it's too late. In Diablo 4, the Season of Blood.
In Season 2, the people of Sanctuary have a new danger to face: invasion by an army of vampires. This shadowy vampire cult has laid claim to large areas of the world and have begun abducting innocent citizens to use in their dark rituals.
Everyone's lives are at risk, including your own.
In Season 2, players are going to uncover a plot led by a new ancient vampire named Lord Zir, who's awoken recently.
Lord Zir is a remnant of a lost age. Before there were humans in Sanctuary, it was inhabited by the firstborn children of Inarius and Lilith, who are known as the Ancients.
But because of Inarius' actions, the Ancients had their powers drawn away from them. But some among them were not strictly subject to a true death.
Zir and his cohort were banished to sleep for an eternity in the city of the Ancients, but due to the events of Diablo 4, the city began to awake, with dire consequences for the humans living on the surface above.
During the events of Season 2, the player is going to contract a vampiric curse, but they're not under Lord Zir's control, which gives them a unique opportunity to strike back against the cult and stop Lord Zir's plans.
We'll encounter a variety of new characters this season, including a band of vampire hunters, one with a particularly shadowy past.
Seek out Zir's army. Kill as many as you can.
Eris is a professional vampire hunter. She's crossed and recrossed the wilds of Sanctuary, putting an end to the undead since long before the events of Diablo 4.
I need to go after the magistrate, and you're going to have to come along.
Eris is played by actor Gemma Chan. Into this character.
He's pretty. Madness. Perhaps that's what it takes.
One of the core seasonal mechanics for this season are vampiric powers. Vampiric powers can be acquired by defeating Bloodseekers and minions of Lord Zir in order to acquire potent blood, which allows you to unlock or upgrade vampiric powers.
When you collect all of these various powers, they have costs, which are going to be detailed as part of the pack system. So armor pieces that you collect during the course of the season are going to have these packs associated with them.
There are 3 types of packs, and you can use the boons they provide in order to fuel the blood seals for various vampiric powers. You can combine the power of different blood seals in the Sanguine Circle, so long as you have the...
Vale, a ver, tiene muy buena pinta. Algunas de las cosas que hemos visto tienen muy buena pinta, pero hay otras que quizá no tanto. Sí, si juegas 2 horas al día, te va a durar 9 meses la temporada. Eso no es problema. Ahí ya disfrutarlo y a todo lo que podáis. Pero la gente que, por la razón que sea, pues puede jugar un poco más. No digo ya al día. Imagina que puedas jugar 10 horas a la semana. En 2-3 semanas lo tienes hecho. Y el problema que tiene esto es que estos juegos caen muy rápido porque... ¿cuántas horas puedes estar haciendo el mismo sigilo? O los mismos 4 sigilos. Y en ese sentido caes muy rápido porque no tienes variedad. Dicho eso, la mecánica es... no sé cómo decirlo de forma sutil. ¿Sabéis las gemas legendarias de Diablo 3? ¿Sabéis que la Season 1 fue las gemas legendarias de Diablo 3 llamadas corazones? Pues la mecánica de Season 2 son las gemas legendarias de Diablo 3 llamadas poderes de sangre. Son 22 poderes de sangre que estáis viendo aquí, que para poder equiparte cada uno tiene una serie de requisitos, con lo cual tienes que gestionar el tema de las influencias. No sé si lo veis, que la bota tiene 5, vamos a llamarlo, triángulos rojos. Más el pantalón tiene 2, con lo cual ya sumas 5, 3 y 2, 5. Luego tienes 2 copas y luego tienes 5 calaveras. Vale, pues ahí estás determinando, lo veis arriba, 7 de 2, etcétera, lo que estás usando. Entonces estás usando 5 yelmos, 2 copas y 2 calaveras. Pero tienes en potencia, o sea, tienes que como disponer qué quieres usar y de qué manera lo quieres usar para elegir el poder. Está bien, la idea no me parece mal. Entonces puedes luego no solo tener ese poder, sino upgradearlo. Pero vuelven a ser gemas legendarias. Habrá que ver cómo de diverso es el poder, porque uno de los poderes que nos han enseñado es: cae un minion, una especie de murciélago, muerde y estunea al enemigo. Y ya está. Entonces, si todo el poder legendario consiste en cae un murciélago y estunea al enemigo, hostia, me falta. Ahora, si el poder legendario, uno de ellos que creo que han enseñado es un dash, atravieso a los enemigos y daseo, es movilidad pura. Eso puede ser cómodo, puede estar bien. O encerrar a los enemigos, o yo qué sé. Seguro que hay cosas que pueden ser súper interesantes. En la Season 1, uno de los corazones, a nivel de utilidad, era que tú explotabas corazones alrededor de forma automática. Y eso era la hostia, porque desbloqueaba la posibilidad de hacer un montón de cosas. Me gusta la mecánica, me gusta la idea, pero hay que ver en qué consisten estas habilidades. Creo que no es una mala idea, luego tienes la opción de... como tienes que, a nivel de mecánica, tienes que cargar tus ítems para distribuirlo como tú consideres. Que al final vamos a ir todos con un barbero, con un tal y con un cual, y vamos a tener una serie de ítems hiperciclados. Eso no os lo voy a discutir. Pero me parece muy interesante. Entonces vas a poder llevar un equipo level 920 con 12 calaveras y 3 poderes de calaveras y a correr, y todos tus poderes nivel 12, no sé a qué nivel se puede llevar. Me parece muy guay. Pero no os habéis para preguntar una cosa. Mirad esto. Se supone que ahora mismo tiene 3 poderes de sangre. ¿Veis alguna otra habilidad o algún otro punto adicional puesto por aquí? ¿Algún botón para activarlas? Son pasivas. Creo que son pasivas. Lo vamos a leer ahora, pero básicamente son corazones. Son esas habilidades de sangre o habilidades vampíricas son pasivas. Son otra vez los corazones, solo que en vez de tener 3 vamos a tener 5 corazones y en vez de salirnos en los anillos van a salir en otro sitio. En ese sentido, no sé si habéis jugado al druida, pero el druida, por ejemplo, tiene los poderes de los espíritus. Básicamente, en vez de tener 3 poderes vas a tener 8. Esa es la mecánica de temporada. Me falta un poco de chicha ahí.
That I like, where as the player dashes, they turn to a cloud of bats. And they'll curse creatures they pass through along the way. As you kill those creatures, you're going to actually steal their souls. When you use certain abilities on your character, all of those souls are unleashed, dealing devastating.
Esto está interesante, o sea, consigues su... Matas enemigos, le robas el arma y mandas estos bichos. Si hay forma de hacerlos escalar, puede ser interesante.
Damage to nearby creatures.
Claro, el problema de que sean pasivas es que no modifican la build. No hay un cambio real dentro de las build. Entonces, tenemos que ver de qué manera funcionan con un poquito más de detalle, que ahora después lo han enseñado, porque si no, las mismas builds que habéis usado en la Season 1 sirven ahora. No hay cambios. En la Season 1 con los corazones igual no, en la Season 0.
If you can't get enough of bats, there's even a vampire power that allows you to summon a bat companion. They'll take a bite out of your enemies and have a chance to stun them.
Claro, ahí está. Dice, uno de los poderes es que invocas un bat companion que cae sobre los enemigos y los aturde.
Lord Zir's army is pushing across Sanctuary in an event called the Blood Harvest, which...
Esto sí, esto es aquí no tengo nada que decir, es un evento nuevo, está guay. Hay 4 tipos nuevos de enemigos, está interesante. El tema de las gemas, que ahora aparecen de una manera diferente. Luego aquí vamos a conseguir free, gratuito para todo el mundo, una skin blanca de portal por haber completado el pase de batalla, que esto es interesante. Los Blessing, que siguen siendo 5, creo que son diferentes, pero tenemos 5 Blessing disponibles, que está bien.
Battle Pass in Season 2. We'll also be making a number of other changes to the game, updating unique powers and items.
Vale, en algún momento han enseñado los poderes. Mira, estos son algunos de los ejemplos de los poderes. Vampiric Power. Tenemos el Blood Boil, Accursed Touch y Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. Si tú te pones dentro de un círculo sanguíneo, cuando tú evades, te metes en una especie de niebla que te vuelve imparable durante 3 segundos. Los enemigos que estén along your path van a recibir un 10% de daño físico, convirtiéndolos en Vampiric y aplicándoles Vampiric Curse. Esto es uno de los poderes. Literalmente, si me quedo AFK en un sitio y evado, me vuelvo imparable durante 3 segundos. Hostia, lo veo muy flojo. Este, por ejemplo, Lucky Hit. 50% de chance de infligir la Vampiric Curse en los enemigos. Los enemigos afectados tienen un 15% de chance de compartir esa maldición con el resto. ¿Qué hace la Vampiric Curse? Stored Souls deal 200% increase damage. Entiendo que esto es la parte de que cuando tú vas matando bichos y les robas el alma, se lo puedes tirar, les puedes escupir esas almas. Bueno, pues reciben un 200% más de daño. A ver este. Cuando tú haces overpower sobre un enemigo, spawneas 3 Volatile Blood Drops. Coleccionando las Volatile Blood Drops causas que exploten haciendo X cantidad de daño físico alrededor tuyo. Cada 45 segundos tu siguiente habilidad sí o sí hace el overpower. Esta parte de aquí abajo, de hecho, esto es un poder del druida con números cambiados. Esto es reciclado 100% un poder del druida. ¿Me parece bien? Sí, pero a ver, 8-9 que van a ser mucho más fuertes que todos los demás, porque, honestamente, no sé vosotros, pero yo el de me quedo AFK y evado, no habrá clase nueva, sí, pero no ahora.
You see these pack costs listed at the bottom. Players need to acquire a certain armor pieces that players need to acquire certain themselves. And it also makes that red effect above the period of time. The flyouts that you might have will come down using and get extra damaging skill and enhance those channeling skills. It just gives you a bit more positional gameplay to be thinking about when you're
Mirad el gameplay.
Playing into this build. So pretty fun ways for you to kind of maximize and get extra.
Y aquí tenemos entonces esto, el tema de los poderes. Tengo 4 poderes activos, arriba he calculado lo que necesito, farmeo la sangre, que lo tenéis abajo, para upgradear los poderes, para desbloquearlos o upgradearlos, que eso me parece interesante.
Damage rather from a channeling build for a class.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's cool about the vampiric, that I like about the vampiric curse, is it kind of forms a unifying thread in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really cool extra ability for players to play with, and being able to control over your ultimate.
Luego tenemos esto, la posibilidad de añadirle a los ítems cualquiera de los 3 aspectos para que tengan como la capacidad de equiparte lo que tú quieras. Y vas a tener que farmear estos ítems. Las pociones no las han llegado a enseñar, pero esto lo vamos a tener que farmear para decir, pues quiero que mi bota tenga 5 de, pues en este caso ferocidad, o de divinidad, o de lo que sea. Esto está bien, yo creo que está bien planteado, es una mecánica interesante. Nuevos modelos, son solo 4, pero está bien. Nueva mecánica, que la tenemos por aquí, que esta mecánica va a estar activa el 100% del tiempo, sencillamente cada cierto tiempo rotará de zona, pero va a estar activa siempre. Nuevas zonas de endgame, con sobre todo nuevas cosas para hacer. Tenemos a Barsan, que cuando estemos haciendo susurros nos podrá salir la key de... Esto no lo entiendo muy bien, no sé si es la key de Barsan o si básicamente se trata de que cuando estés haciendo nuevos susurros te van a poder ofrecer, entiendo que en las dungeon, directamente enfrentarte al eco de Barsan. Del mismo modo, cuando estás haciendo mareas de sangre, te va a salir Grigori. Que Grigori ya lo hemos matado un montón de veces, solo que ahora parece ser que le van a hacer un reward para que se convierta en un boss importante. Cuando estés haciendo World Bosses o Legion Events, lo mismo, podrá aparecer Lorcir. Y una vez que tenemos esos 3 claros, en las dungeon va a salir The Beast in the Eyes y Duriel va a salir del eco de Barsan y de este otro. Con lo cual tenemos motivos para farmear estos bichos. Sobre todo porque este y este son la puerta de los Overdrops, que los tiene Duriel. Este de aquí no sé qué tendrá y este de aquí no sé qué tendrá, pero puede ser interesante. Nos están dando algo más que hacer en endgame. Ahora puedo hacer dungeons porque quiero farmear a la bestia del hielo. Puedo hacer, una vez que yo ya vaya más o menos equipado, puedo hacer mareos de sangre porque quiero matar a Grigorio, o puedo hacer susurros porque quiero matar al eco de Barsan. Estamos desbloqueando... Ahora, ¿nos dropeará el eco de Barsan corazones? ¿Se mantendrá algo de esa mecánica? Sería la hostia, ¿os imagináis? Creo que puede ser muy interesante. Dijeron que harían algún material para invocar esos bosses y que esos materiales podrían intercambiar entre players. ¿Te imaginas? Sería la hostia. Yo lo que pensaba hacer es montas una party y te dedicas a... Yo farmeo 2 keys, tú farmeas 2 keys y nos juntamos. No dropean corazones, si es que es lo normal, no tiene sentido. El eco de Lilith da lo mismo de siempre. El eco de Lilith no lo han cambiado. Sencillamente, como ahora nos van a dar más power creep, que tenemos 100 puntos más de level, vamos a ir contra ella mucho más fuertes. No me parece que esté mal. También han hecho que estos nuevos enemigos suelten skins nuevas que se traducen en otro motivo más, sobre todo para que le guste ese tipo de cosas, para farmearlos, porque nos van a dar este tipo de skins, que está bien. Tiene toda la pinta de que está como muy enfocada al necro. Luego las mejoras me parecen muy buenas. Tenemos mejoras generales, como que la gente en hardcore ya no se va a morir tan a menudo. Que el bonus de experiencia de los inciensos se mantiene, con lo cual ahora vas a llevar siempre un incienso y una poción. Que el bonus de experiencia ahora es multiplicativo, lo cual es la hostia, porque el World Tier 4 creo que es un 200% multiplicativo, mucho mejor que aditivo. Luego, te dan un montón más de waypoint ya desbloqueados. Que se mantengan las recompensas, esto no sois conscientes de lo que significa. A nivel 50 vais a tener 30 niveles Paragon de golpe. Esto es la hostia, ¿eh? Luego, el tema de los bosses de mundo, de que no escalen, en teoría tiene que ser como más fácil. Y 2 huecos más de personaje, que está bien, es correcto. Luego, lo de que aparezcan alijos por todas partes, me parece muy curioso. Me ha parecido una de las formas más curiosas de resolver un problema. Las monturas, las mejoras que le han hecho a las monturas, creo que son Dios. Creo que está muy bien enfocado en las monturas. Hacía muchísima falta. Es una lástima que consideremos que este tipo de cambios son la hostia, porque creo que son bastante básicos. Tendrían que haber estado desde el principio. Está muy bien, los veo muy correctos. Luego, ¿qué más tenemos por aquí? El tema de que las dungeon nos van a teletransportar directamente dentro. De que entras a una dungeon y puedes ir del tirón a por bosses. Del tirón. A las monturas le han hecho también que tenga más velocidad de movimiento de base, que dure más el sprint, que tenga mucho menos cooldown cuando te bajas, etc. El tema de los eventos de las dungeons va a cambiar totalmente la fórmula que hacemos sigilos. Eso está bien, está guay, está muy bien. Y luego mirad esto. Ruby Fragments. Oro, oro, oro. Tenemos por aquí los ítems ancestrales. Diamond Fragments. Breakthrough. Estamos hablando de que van a hacer que el farmeo sea diferente. Y se agradece la verdad. Ahora aquí tenemos un ejemplo de cuando se pelea. Podemos ver un poquito el drop. Ahí lo tenéis. Y se cogen automáticamente, con lo cual las gemas van a ser prácticamente automáticas. Esto está muy bien. Más cosas. Mira todos los buffos de abajo, con todos los cambios que tiene ahora. Bueno, a ver, es un poco triste, pero tenemos a la maga otra vez más con el teleport, la congelación y el escudo de hielo. Es lo que hay. Pero mirad el teleport, mirad el simbolito del teleport. Vale, esto es uno poder legendario. Y aquí tenemos otro poder legendario. Si de alguna manera algunos se pueden hacer como más pasivos, pueden redundar en nuestro beneficio. Cambios a las dungeons. Todo esto me ha parecido muy correcto. Creo que todos los cambios que han hecho a las dungeons están muy bien. Están pensados, Lo que pasa que el hecho de que tengamos mucha más experiencia, mucho más oro, mucho más todo, nos han acelerado por todas partes. Si no ha sido uno o dos, han acelerado muchos aspectos del juego. No sé lo que nos van a presentar en el stream de la semana que viene, pero yo estoy contento. Parece que las gemas pueden ser robadas de oro si solo quedan fragmentos, ¿no? ¿Cómo robadas de oro? Ahora las gemas las crearemos. Digamos que las gemas van a seguir ocupando inventario, ¿vale? Que esto es quizá lo que nos ha explicado bien. La gema va a seguir siendo, yo lo he entendido así, va a seguir siendo un objeto tangible. Lo vas a tener ahí, lo vas a coger. Lo que pasa que no vas a tener un stash de gemas, vas a tener material de gemas. Entonces yo, cuando una gema, por la razón que sea, ya no me interese, cuando yo tenga las gemas de tier bajo que ya no las uso, las rompo, las convierto en fragmentos que son una currency que se queda guardada ahí y no ocupa espacio. Yo ahora me creo las gemas de tier, los pentágonos o las gemas de tier más alto, me las resoqueo y las gemas que no use las rompo y a correr. Entonces yo no tengo que tener un stash lleno de gemas. Lo que tengo es, en la zona de materiales, el material de las gemas para cuando a mí me hagan falta, las creo. Yo lo he entendido de esa manera. Luego una de las cosas que le han preguntado, oye, si compro el pase de batalla solo me está dropeando 600 platinos. ¿Es posible que de alguna manera, porque con 600 platinos no compras nada en la tienda? Y han dicho que sí, que se están planteando darnos más platinos. Pues gente, por mi parte ya estaría. Si queréis os doy ahora unos minutitos por si me queréis hacer preguntas o alguna cosa que no haya quedado claro, alguien que haya llegado tarde. Y si no, pues creo que chapo por aquí. Ya por la hora que es, no creo que valga la pena abrir otro ratito Cyberpunk. Pero mañana sí que estaremos todo el día con Cyberpunk. Os resubiré el stream, este trocito os lo resubiré a YouTube para quien se lo haya podido perder. Y os tuitearé unas cuantas cosas con comentarios. Que creo que está bien. Lo de las monturas, ¿qué ha sido? Lo he explicado antes, te lo explico otra vez. Lo de las monturas es una mejora que consiste en que... Mira, está por aquí en alguna parte. Monturas. Lo de las monturas es sencillamente... Punto 1. Las monturas ahora no se estuquean, no se bloquean. Van a saltar las pequeñas piedras y cosas así. Punto 2. La velocidad de movimiento base es un 14% más rápida. Punto 3. Cuando le des a sprint, el sprint si duraba 3 segundos ahora va a durar 4,5. Y luego, si pasas por una barricada la rompen. Si te descabalgan a la fuerza de una hostia, en vez de estar 30 segundos de cooldown está 15. Y si descargas tú voluntariamente tienes entre 5 y 3 segundos. ¿Mi plato preferido? Pues no lo sé. Yo diría que ahora mismo un buen ramen me lo como muy a gusto. Un ramen no, unos noodles. Unos buenos noodles. Yo estoy muy contento con el parche, ¿eh? Estoy muy contento, me he quedado muy a gusto. Como resumen diría que esta... De hecho lo han dicho ellos. Voy a usar su resumen. Resumen de todo lo que se viene en la Season 2 y de este stream que hemos tenido 2 horas. Esta Season va a ser la Season de mejorar la forma de alcanzar el nivel 100, de hacer que la progresión tanto de leveo como de equipo esté mucho más escalada y sea mucho más natural, y que todos los jugadores tengamos tanto un mejor equipo como una mejor escalada en lo que sería todo el proceso, que no llegue un momento a nivel 60, 70 que nos bloqueemos, sino que sientas esa progresión todo el rato, porque según vas consiguiendo más equipo, entras en dificultad más alta, que te da más experiencia, que te hace ganar más nivel, que te hace subir a dificultad más alta, que te hace ganar mejor equipo, etcétera. Entonces, Han mejorado mucho más la rueda en ese sentido. Y han metido un montón de quality of life, porque este juego, una de las cualidades que tenía era que cada 5, 10, 15 segundos te daban una patada en la espinilla. Ibas a ciudad, joder, ahora me tengo que ir a la otra punta de la ciudad a vender las pociones. Pum, patada en la espinilla. Vaya, ahora me tengo que ir a la otra punta de la ciudad al alijo. Pum, patada en la espinilla. Vaya, ahora me tengo que ir a la otra punta de la ciudad a buscar no sé quién. Pum, patada en la espinilla. El juego tenía muchas cositas muy malas o muy mal hechas que se traducían en una patada en la espinilla continuamente. Joder, ahora tengo que buscar aspectos y tengo que repasar uno a uno todos los legendarios que tengo en el alijo. Han mejorado muchas de esas patadas en la espinilla y no las han quitado. Y eso se agradece una burrada. Se agradece muchísimo. Porque de esas cosas que dices tú, es que no podría estar peor hecho. Son cosas que parecen como muy evidentes y que quizá tendrían que haber estado ahí desde el principio. Pero sea antes o sea después, lo tenemos. Han mejorado los recorridos de las dungeons, para que no sea una dungeon donde vienes, te metes a la derecha, vienes aquí, vienes aquí, vienes aquí, vienes aquí y vuelves a... No, lo han hecho mucho más natural. Entonces ahora tienes que hacer este recorrido que es un círculo y ya subes a por el boss. Entonces lo han hecho como mucho más limpio. Al margen de que te dejen zonas extras, lo han hecho más limpio. Han hecho las zonas menos recorribles, con menos puertas, con menos obligaciones por el camino. Han intentado hacer un esfuerzo muy grande y se nota en que no tengamos esos problemas. Y luego, sobre todo, el Stats tiene un filtro. Solo este cambio, para mí ya me hace un mundo. Estos cambios los vamos a tener metidos seguramente antes del 17. Han dicho que quizá para el 15-12 ya lo tendríamos. El día nos van a hacer un segundo stream explicando más cositas. Pero la Season 1 va a terminar el 17 y la Season 2 va a empezar el 17. No va a haber un plazo intermedio para hacer Diógenes. No sé en qué va a consistir o de qué manera van a gestionar el alijo, pero no va a haber un plazo intermedio para hacer Diógenes. En todas las dungeons no, lo han hecho unas cuantas, en las que les haya dado tiempo. Han aumentado la densidad, han hecho muchos cambios bastante interesantes. A mí esta temporada me toca jugar Rogue. Yo voy a jugar Rogue esta temporada. Para mí esta va a ser la temporada del Rogue. De hecho, tengo por aquí... ¿Dónde lo tengo? Tengo por aquí en alguna parte alguna de las builds que voy a utilizar. Mira, una de las builds que voy a usar. Una de las de leveo. Tengo que quitar los corazones cuando me dejen, pero una de las de leveo. De disparo penetrante. Y luego por aquí tenemos algunas builds. Yo tengo varias, ¿vale? Ya hechas, pero tenemos algunas builds de leveo. Filtramos por Rogue. Flurry, que está bastante bien, muy interesante. La de trampas es la que yo más ganas tengo de jugar. La Twisting Blade me pone los putos nervios, así que seguramente empezaré con Penetrating Suit o con Flurry. Luego mid-game ya cambiamos seguramente a la de Rapid Fire, que es una de las que más me gustan. O me meto en la de... ¿dónde está? La de trampas de veneno, esta de aquí. Esta me gusta mucho. Y ya para terminar en endgame, seguramente la de Uber Lilith, que es esta de aquí. Esta mete unas hostias single target muy bestia. No me termina de convencer el tema de Twisted Blade, pero me adaptaré. Y si no, esta, la de Flurry con disparo... ¿Dónde estás? Hay una que es, creo que esta. Rapid Fire con Flurry. Esta es una de las que más me gustan. Entonces desarrollaré un par de ellas y a ver qué tal. Yo esta season voy a jugar Rogue. Es lo que me toca. No he cerrado todavía el Necro al 100%, pero ya veremos. El Necro tiene poca cosa de leveo. El Necro tiene 2 o 3 que son válidas. De hecho hay una versión de Necro de Minions que no tira mal. Pues equipo, un placer y esas cosas. Muy contento con el parche. El autorun no lo entiendo. Honestamente, de todo el parche, lo único que no entendió es el autorun. Pero bueno, os recomiendo, no sé si me seguís, os recomiendo que me sigáis en Twitter. No sé si tengo comando. No sé si tengo comando. Bueno, por si no tengo comando, os paso mi Twitter. Os recomiendo que me sigáis en Twitter porque esta noche os voy a colgar unos cuantos enlaces y algunas cosillas y resúmenes y demás. Entonces, si os habéis perdido alguna cosa, ahí lo tenéis. Un abrazo y esas cosas.
El primer enlace sí que ha funcionado, ¿eh?
Ah, pues mira.